What's up, RotoGrinders? Welcome to GrindersLive, Week 17 NFL season coming to a close. I am not Dean 78 9 23 42 07 91. Our guy Dean had some family stuff going on this morning, so hopefully everything is going well with him, and keeping him in our thoughts that it's not a big deal and just something small. So no Dean this week. I am TJ Zwarych, but we do still have a very exciting Grinders Live because making his return after a couple weeks away, Bobby Gomes. How you doing this morning?
Doing well. Could have fooled me that you're not Dean. I hope Dean's doing well, but yeah, it's the the up and coming replacement.
Taysom Hill roll in full effect, playing
Taysom Hill roll. Exactly.
Used to playing a gadget, but we're starting at QB today, and we're gonna see how it goes. I'm not quite I don't have the prowess of filling time and space as Dean does, but we're gonna just have a nice chat about some football, and we're gonna help the people win some money tonight. As Mr. Richard says in chat, as you come in, please smash that like button. These RG folks are trying to help us make some money. It's exactly what we're trying to do. Smash the like button if you're watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. We got lots of good content coming your way today. Right after us, we have Erik and Neil coming in for GPP Final Takes. After that, we have Will and Tim taking you right up to lock for crunch time. And then the reason you need to subscribe and have that notification bell on is because tonight you don't want to miss out on our showdown show with Will and myself at 6:40 Eastern time. We have a small slate for the main slate. There was Wednesday football, there was Thursday football, there was 3 games on Saturday, and it's leaving us for only 8 games on this main slate. How many lineups you playing today, and what are your kind of early thoughts?
Playing 153 teams. Yeah, it's just basically how I've kind of looked at it is I don't really love the slate. I feel like you're more interested in than I am currently. I'm looking at quarterbacks like Jordan Love. I'm looking at that Green Bay, Minnesota game with Darnold on the other side. I'm also looking at Tennessee and Jacksonville. I'm looking at the Buffalo versus New York Jets game, and then the Carolina Tampa Bay game. I'm trying to figure out ways to kind of play that game differently because it's going to be very chalky, and it should be. Yeah, those are my service thoughts currently.
The reason I feel pretty good about it is just because I've managed to narrow it down to a pretty tight pool. I'm playing 20 lineups today. I only had 7 running backs that I was considering, and I think I only got to 4 of them. So playing 20 lineups with a core of 4 running backs allows me to just kind of mix and match my quarterbacks, do different stacks. I think I'm playing 8 different quarterbacks in my 20 lineups, but only 4 different running backs, keeping a pretty tight receiver pool as well. I'm with you on the Green Bay Packers today. I think they are a very nice team for tournaments. I had some calls from earlier in the week that I thought would make for sneaky GPP plays for value. I just don't really know if we need it anymore because ever since Tony Pollard being out opened up TJ Spears, he's going to be mega chalk, but he kind of deserves to be mega chalk because it's Jacksonville. He's looked really good last week. Kind of seemed like they might want to give him some extra touches, and then Tony Pollard did not even travel with the team this week. And so it's TJ Spears chalk week. Before we get into the position by position stuff, how do you plan on handling him?
Yeah. Currently, in terms of Spears, let me just check where I'm at. I am currently I'm under the field, but I'm going to be playing if he's going to be, I don't know, 35, 36%. I'll probably have 30 of Spears currently. I wonder where you're at.
I got 90% Tajay Spears right now. Got him in 18 of my 20 lineups. I have one Joe Flacco and one Jordan Love team that doesn't have Tajay Spears, but and the one Jordan Love one I think is just like a full-on game stack of that one with only like one or two players outside of the Minnesota and Green Bay game. So I'm that's kind of how I'm going about it today, just getting well over the field. If he busts, it's not going to be my day. On to week 18. We got some people asking about the weather in chat. Looking at, I can pull up Kevin Roth's weather report. We got it up on the screen here. People saying maybe they're scared off a bit from Jacksonville and Tennessee outside of Spears because of the weather in that game, and I'll drop the link in the chat as well. There's a line of storms poised to move through Jacksonville in game, and it'll bring heavy rain on the leading edge, with lighter rain sticking around behind it. I actually think there's a pretty good chance we see a delay in this game due to lightning, though it's a bit too early to tell exactly when. My guess would be that if that kickoff is delayed. If there is no delay, I expect heavy rain at some point, light to moderate rain for most of the game. If they end up with a lightning delay, they'll of course have avoid the worst of the rain. Winds could be gusty at times as the rain moves through, sustained at 10 miles per hour, but gusting at 20 to 30 miles per hour. So that game is looking pretty ugly. It does. How are you going to try and avoid that one at all outside of maybe Tajay Spears? Because Brian Thomas Jr. looking like one of the better receiver plays on the slate. And I actually did have a plans on going a couple Mac Jones and a couple Mason Rudolph teams.
So I like the skinny of Brian Thomas and Calvin Ridley. It's kind of how I was going to play this game. And
the Noto special.
Yeah, the Noto special. He kind of called it on our show. And then outside of that, like I did have interest in Brian Thomas. I mean, sorry, not Brian Thomas, Mason Rudolph, just not Mac Jones. I just can't bring myself to play Mac Jones. So it'd be more like Mason Rudolph stacks with Calvin Ridley and Brian Thomas runbacks was kind of how I had it. Getting to a fair bit of that too. So I think that's why I'm under on Spears, but Spears is a really good play, obviously. So maybe I should bump up my Spears exposure. And with the weather, probably should bump it up as well.
Yeah, Shannon says heavy rain and two terrible teams. No, thanks. It does seem like a game that maybe the defense could thrive a little bit in that one, but the defenses are terrible too. So it's tough to predict because with two bad offenses, two bad defenses, and a whole lot of rain, anything can happen. Tackling is just as difficult as anything else, and sticking with receivers in the rain when you don't know which way they're going to cut is not often as very easy. So any concerns with Thomas with Tennessee only giving up a 100-yard receiver once all year? No, that's not because their defense is really good. That's because they're always getting blown out, and so people don't need to be passing the ball on them all the time. Jacksonville is not a very good team, though, and so we shouldn't have to worry about that. Shannon says Browns D might be my favorite. Bad weather, no Tua. They are my favorite defense on the slate as well. I haven't checked ownership since Tua has gotten ruled out, so if they're going to be super highly owned, I might have to reconsider, but I do really like them. We do have more weather on the slate. Orange and yellows, yellow and orange, more orange. Miami and Cleveland is the other game that's orange. Winds are the big story here. Sustained winds will increase through the game from 15 to 20 miles per hour at kickoff to 20 to 25 by the second half, with gusts reaching 35 plus in the second half. As far as rain goes, I don't expect anything more than off and on showers, and the game would be mostly dry with periods of rain. This is just going to be a gross defensive game. Like, Miami's not going to score with Tyler Huntley and a ton of rain. Cleveland's not going to score with Dorian Thompson-Robinson and a ton of rain and wind. Sorry, not a ton of wind. I meant rain. I meant a ton of wind. So that's a pretty ugly game for offenses as well. I don't think you need to touch a single offensive player in that game for DFS, and just roll with the defenses in that one. The Jets and Buffalo will be pretty ugly as well. Roth says it looks like a very wet pregame with rain clearing early in the game. The later we go, the stronger the winds get. And the end of the game, we could see sustained winds around 15 miles an hour with gusts up to 30. That one's gross. Carolina and Tampa Bay is gross. The same line of storms moving into Jacksonville will push through Tampa as well. I think a lightning delay is possible here, which will reduce the weather impact because they're waiting out the rain rather than playing through it. Winds aren't a major factor except for thunderstorm-generated winds, which could bring some gusty winds over 30 miles per hour if they are not in a delay when the storm line runs through. Philadelphia is supposed to be ugly, just yellowed though. Roth expects it to be mostly dry, if not fully dry. Winds will be sustained between 15 and 10 and 15 miles per hour. Could occasionally gust up to 30. Atlanta and Washington, scattered showers. Rain looks likely at some point in the game, but not a complete washout. Winds 10 to 15 miles per hour sustained with gusts through 30 miles per hour. This is one of the reasons why Green Bay and Minnesota just look so good here, because that's like a dome game is always a target. But a dome game, when virtually every game on the slate has terrible weather, that game looks so much better than every other game on the slate.
Yeah, I'm with you, but the issue is now all the ownership is going to get pushed to that game. When I was on Blender's show, like I was looking forward to playing some Miami. I don't know if I can do that now with Huntley under center. I do wonder about this Dallas game. Like, I know no one wanted to play Kenny Pickett and no one really wanted to play Cooper Rush, but I feel like those guys, people might be more willing to play them now currently. I wanted to play that Jets-Buffalo game. It just seems like I'm going to play it, but I don't think I'm going to be as ecstatic to play it as I was on Friday. Carolina and Tampa Bay, everyone wanted to play that as well, but the weather doesn't look great either. So I can see a lot of this ownership really condensing in this Green Bay, Minnesota game.
Yeah, I'm going to have pieces of that game in almost every lineup and just kind of be differentiating them throughout. But I am still going to be targeting some of these weather games as well, just because like we see it all the time where bad weather means people break off long touchdowns. It doesn't always mean low scoring. The wind stuff I am worried about, but all the rain, I don't really care. Shannon says just stack the Vikings, Packers, and Raiders, Saints. Raiders Saints is a little scarier to stack. I do like some Brock Bowers. I think Jacoby Myers is fine. I have one O'Connell double stack with them, but I don't think you need to be playing too many Saints today outside of maybe a Kendrick Miller. How much of the Raiders and Saints game are you getting to?
Just looking at it here. Yeah, it's more Bowers, Aiden O'Connell. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I think both these teams are actively trying to lose, so I'm not really too excited to be playing them. Yeah, I don't know. Madison, maybe I'm fine with. You said Kendrick Miller?
Yeah, he'd be the one I'd have the most interest in because I think people are scared away because they saw the snaps from last week, but they just got absolutely blown out. And so that's why the snaps were so low. He was still the RB1 when that game was moderately close. And so Kendrick, I still think is viable because both of these teams are terrible. So it lessens the likelihood of a blowout. If you got any questions, get them in the YouTube chat, throw them in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat, YouTube. If you want us to be going to your QQs throughout the show, smash that like button for us. All you got to do is take your mouse, slide it over, hit the like button. If you're on your phone, you got to click hide chat, then hit the like button. It's 2 steps. I apologize for the extra work, but it helps us combat the YouTube algorithm. And it helps us. And we're nice people, so you want to help us. Plus, where else are you getting free content for 4 straight hours with a dog this cute hanging out the whole time? Come on. Mr. Gerg wants to know, where is Tim and Dean? Tim will be on Crunch Time today with Will, with Will hosting that one, Tim on as well. And then Dean had some family stuff come up this morning, and so I'm subbing in for him as host for this one. Great question from Richard in chat. Bobby, can you touch on the approach for the ultimate main event? Are you playing any lineups in the $3,333 contest with $2 million to first this week?
Yeah, I have 3 teams. I won a ticket yesterday. I think I won another ticket, and then I just bought one. I don't really know, man. I'm just kind of probably looking at this Green Bay Vikings game now a little bit more. I had wanted to play this Buffalo New York Jets game. You think the weather's going to be that bad? Yellow.
I mean, well, I'm sure we'll get one more update from Roth before lock, but I mean, I didn't really want to play anybody other than Josh Allen or maybe Breece Hall anyway.
I like James Cook. I like the passing game. No.
What are you going to do in your 3 lineups in the $3,300 where Spears is probably going to be like 50-60% in that one?
Probably it's early to say, but I'm probably not going to play much Tajay in those teams. Maybe one team out of the 3, probably.
This is an interesting question because it's for a season-long championship, and in theory, it feels like it should be easy with Achane, Spears, and Aaron Jones. He's got to pick 2. I think Achane is actually the one you fade. Like, I think Tajay Spears outscores Devon Achane today. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Spears likely outscores Achane, especially now with Huntley there.
Yeah.
From the running back position, I think my favorite play, it was James Cook, and he is currently in our number 1 optimal. Well, one of them was James Cook. I think Saquon is my favorite by far. But you're saying I should have more Spears, which makes a ton of sense because of the price. Yeah, and he's hitting. So Spears is our highest owned player in our Sims at 44%. Yeah, he's going to be tough to be under the field on.
Like, my thing with him, the reason I like him so much is because he's game script proof. If they're losing, he's going to catch a bunch of passes. If they're winning, he's going to be running the ball. He's been their third down back all season long, so they're not just going to throw somebody else in there on third down just because that's the thing they do. Like, no, he's going to be getting all 3 downs, and so I really, really like him from just a game script proof perspective.
What do you feel like is the strongest position on the slate? Would you say it's running back? I feel like it was pretty clear last week that it was running back, but
I would say running back. I don't think it's as deep as it has been in past weeks, but I still say running back was probably the strongest. Like, let's stick, like, going semi position by position here. Let's go running back first before we do quarterbacks this week, because I had a planned pool of 7. Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, Breece Hall, Aaron Jones, Kendre Miller, Tajay Spears. But I've found as I'm building lineups, Saquon, Bucky, and Tajay Spears are just coming in head and shoulders above everybody else for me.
Yeah, I think Bucky and Saquon are the 2 that I prefer to Spears. I think Spears is the one I want to be under on.
I know he could finish this game with 18 points. And if he gets 18 points and you play, say, Saquon and Bucky at your running back position and Calvin Ridley instead, and Ridley catches a 50-yard bomb, like, that's a great way to get very, very different.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Ridley, you could go dog.
That's where I was kind of going with using Ridley and not playing Spears.
Ridley's projecting for 18% ownership, but which is pretty high, but I still think as a direct pivot off of Spears, I still think he makes for a great play.
Well, in higher stakes stuff, Spears is going to push like 50 to 60.
Yeah.
Or Ridley might be like 22%.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a really good point. When you get to running backs, Mr. Richard said, how about Jonathan Taylor? I do like Taylor today. I just found myself getting to Barkley more with the only $700 difference. And so I do like Taylor. I'm playing him in, I think, 2 of my 20 lineups, but I didn't get to near as much of him as I thought I would.
Our Sims really like Taylor. currently getting him at 28%. Second highest owned running back. Third highest owned we have is Barkley. Fourth is Aaron Jones. Fifth is Bucky Irving. So we're currently definitely bullish on Spears, and Bucky Irving's the one that we're kind of cutting out of the top 5, I would say, which I don't know. I think I have it flipped.
Yeah, I love Irving so much. I feel like we've kind of been underprojecting him all year.
I think Irving's a fantastic play.
Yeah, I'm on the same page there. Healing with Nature says they've been looking at the weather, and they said the radar looks like it's going to be getting better as the day goes on. We will still be getting an update from Roth before lock. This is a very early preliminary look that we read through. So as soon as we get to crunch time, Tim and Will be able to take you through one more weather update. You're going to get to any Josh Jacobs tonight. That's a tough matchup, but he's just been getting tons and tons of usage lately.
Yeah, I think I prefer the passing game, but I'm anyone in this game just because of the weather all around the league today. I would be getting to Jacobs, but prefer the passing game. Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft, especially Dontavian Wicks, those guys.
Yeah, I'm trying to get one of these Packers receivers in most of my lineups, whether it be Reed, Dobbs, or Wicks. I'm trying to get one Packer and one Viking in most of my lineups. I haven't nailed it in all of them, but my goal is either Addison, Jefferson, or Aaron Jones in every lineup, and Reed, Dobbs, or Wicks in basically every lineup today. Kendry Miller is tough to trust. Yeah, he's absolutely tough to trust, but we don't really have to trust him when he's coming in at 3% ownership today. It's very easy to get over the field on that if you're playing lots of lineups, especially if you're running an Aiden O'Connell team. You get 8% of Kendry Miller today. You're doubling the field if you're playing lots of lineups. If you're playing like a single entry, I don't think I get there. 3 entry max, I don't think I get there. Maybe just if you're stacking up the Raiders on the other side. Have you looked into it all? The Sunday night game yet. We got some people playing on FanDuel, and they're wondering about our interest in Atlanta and Washington.
I have not. We don't usually cover the Sunday night stuff. I can look at it though. Run our sims. Actually, we don't even have them loaded yet for tonight, do we? No, we don't.
I think Jaden Daniels on FanDuel looks really, really good. He projects better than Josh Allen. He's $600 cheaper. He might be my favorite quarterback over there at only $8,500. I think he might be my top option on the whole slate. So I really, really like Jaden Daniels. Terry McLaurin at $7,900, I think, is a great GPP play to play with him. A great pivot off of Brian Thomas Jr. I don't love the Atlanta side. I'll probably avoid the Atlanta side outside of Bijan, but even Bijan is super expensive. I think he's tough to get to. Makes for a great tournament play and a great run back to Washington stack, but that's more tournaments only. Jaden Daniels, I'd argue, could be a cash quarterback on FanDuel this week.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels, I think, is a phenomenal play. I'm still kind of – I want to see Penix do it more. I know he's going to be good eventually, but I definitely would, thinking about that, the Commanders offense, be more inclined to play Commanders players.
Kenny Mund asking any love for Tyjae Spears. Yeah, Spears is the top running back play on the slate. It's just whether or not you want to play him into that massive ownership or not.
We have Spears by far. Like, our sims run very contrary to my thinking, which is maybe playing the passing game with Ridley. Our sims really like Tyjae Spears today.
Yeah, I ended up with about 90%. So I'm all aboard the Tyjae Spears train. I'm not getting to any random shot running backs just because I don't think you need to on this slate with so many just like really, really good options. I don't think we need to take shots on questionable situations unless you're running like 150 lineups. But like, I'm just about to answer your question, Joy Boy Mac. You don't got to ask it again. Are we sleeping on the Raiders running backs this week? And then there was another question about the Panthers running backs. So among Raheem Blackshear, Mike Boone, Amir Abdullah, and Alexander Madison, you including any of those four options in your pool today?
Alexander Madison. He's the one that I have the most interest in. Who are the others?
So Abdullah on the same team, and then the two Panthers running backs, Raheem Blackshear and Mike Boone, both 4K, with Chuba Hubbard now on the IR for the rest of the year.
I feel like I should have more interest than I currently do, but they are in a split backfield. So no, I don't think I'm going to be playing either of those running backs. Are you?
No, like maybe one of them falls into the end zone. Maybe one of them catches 4 or 5 passes. I think Boone would probably be my favorite option, but I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball very well. If they do, I think it's because Bryce Young has a big game. So I'm not going to be getting to any of the Panthers running backs or the Raiders ones. I just don't think you need to with how many great options we have on this slate. Like maybe Madison will be fine, but he's still going to be splitting work with Abdullah as well. So not for me in those spots. Any other running backs you like that we haven't talked about? Like low-owned Breece Hall, I think is somewhat interesting.
I like both running backs in that game. Like our first, James Cook isn't anywhere near like a good play in exposure with our sims from an exposure standpoint with our sims relative to the other 5 running backs that we kind of talked about. But he's hitting the number one optimal. So I really like Cook. I really like Breece Hall. I think they're definitely interesting running back pivots. Who's the chalk running back that you're trying to get away from? Like if you had to choose, who's it going to be?
No one really. Like no. I'm playing all of them, and I'm gonna just differentiate elsewhere.
So if you're poking holes in some chalk on this slate, who would it be?
Sorry?
If you're poking holes in some chalk on the slate, who would it be?
Probably at the receiver position with Brian Thomas Jr. and Calvin Ridley in that really bad weather. Mike Evans in a game that they might blow them out by 21 points. Jacoby Myers never really gets there. So probably the receiver position would be where I'd be poking the most holes. Like I know even tight. Like I'm playing a fairly chalky week if I'm being honest. Like I'm playing a fairly chalky week, and I just where everybody else single stacks, I triple stack.
I think that might be the way to play it, especially with how Green Bay and Minnesota, how much ownership. Like if you want to play that game, that's probably how you're going to do it, right?
Yeah, like Jordan Love and Sam Darnold will both be kind of chalky. Or I guess Jordan Love not as much, but I'm gonna the way I'm doing it is like I'm playing 3 of Wicks, Dobbs, Reed, Kraft in my Jordan Love lineups, and then running it back with 2 Vikings, 2 of Jefferson, Addison, and Aaron Jones and Hawkinson. And so that's kind of I just want to play more of it, like do game stacks around the chalk is kind of how I'm handling it on this slate.
I think that was originally how to play the Carolina Tampa Bay game, but I feel like that ownership's depressed a little since.
Yeah, like it's I do love some Baker Mayfield on the slate still, but that one without Chuba Hubbard, it is kind of tougher to feel like they're going to be Carolina's going to have any ability to hang around in this one.
Yeah. What about the weather? Do you think the weather affects ownership in that one? I feel like it will a little bit.
I think it would more if there wasn't so much weather.
Yeah.
It does still make me it feels good in some terrible weather games to just lock in some Bucky Irving and Tajay Spears and just say, hey, running backs who both catch passes and will get a lot of touches out of the backfield in terms of carries. Weather shouldn't really affect them because they won't be affected by the passing downfield. Those feel really good today. Are you going to get to any Jerome Ford against Miami in the bad weather?
I currently have no Jerome Ford.
Donnie Watson asks, well, Tampa Bay can't stop a passing attack. Doesn't that just help the Carolina receivers? Yes, but if you don't have a running attack to worry about, the passing attack is a little bit easier to stop. Plus, there's a ton of gusting wind in that game. And so that makes downfield passing a lot tougher. And we never really know if Bryce Young is going to be good or bad. He's looked very good in some games lately, but still he's still kind of, the team isn't good, and he goes back to rookie Bryce Young every now and then also.
I do not think Tampa Bay is going to blow out Carolina. He's played, every game he's played has been tight, it seems like, especially for, like, think of the Chiefs a couple weeks back. Like, I know, yeah, you're taking out Chuba, but I think they'll put up a fight, Carolina.
We'll see. I like, if I have a few lineups that is like a mini game stack of that one, where I have Thielen as a run back, and then I'm playing like Baker, Bucky, Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan, and Payne Durham. And so I kind of hope that Baker just goes in there and throws 4 or 5 touchdowns, because that would be pretty good for my DFS teams, because he's projecting for 14% ownership right now. I don't think it's going to be that high. I think we're over projecting Baker Mayfield a little bit. I think he's going to come closer in like 8-9% ownership. How many times has Win been hyped up, and has it been much less of a factor? Seems about 75%. Chris Kirk says. Chis Kirk says, I feel like that is the most anecdotal stat I've ever heard. I don't know where you got that number from, but I think it definitely makes us want to target the dome games with higher totals. But with so much wind on the slate, I don't think you have to worry about it being a factor too much, because it's everywhere.
Unless it's moving the line, like, there's no real reason to overdo it.
It's all baked into the totals more often than not. Anyways, who's more likely to take the passing down work between Mike Boone and Raheem Blackshear? I think Boone is likely to be the passing down guy. He's done that a couple places throughout his career. Are you getting any Tyrone Tracy today?
I like Tyrone Tracy on the other side of Joe Flacco stacks.
Mm-hmm. Specifically, like on FanDuel, he's got a really nice price tag too.
Yeah, I just feel like Neighbors is like the obvious run back. But I feel like Tracy is right there, and he's a step under, but I still think he's fine. It's just the problem is running back so strong that I think there are other options I'd rather get to, but he's fine.
Bazinga in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord asks if Abdullah is a viable pivot from Spears. No, I don't think so. If I'm not playing Spears, the way I want to get different is by paying up at all the running back positions. Not if I don't want to play Spears, I want to do something like a Flacco stack with Pittman and Downs, and then go Barkley and I guess maybe not Jonathan Taylor in a Joe Flacco stack, but spend up at the running back position and get different at receiver. That's how I'd want to handle Tajay Spears if I'm fading him. Not a direct line pivot. Do you trust the Green Bay wide receivers other than Wicks? Yes, absolutely. Wicks is the one I trust the least. Wicks is the one I'm playing the most, but he's absolutely the one I trust the least. I do like all 3 of them quite a bit, though. Somebody asking if you would play Downs and Pittman in the same lineup that does not have Flacco. I definitely don't think so, because if Downs and Pittman are both getting there, it's hard to believe Flacco at 4,900 wouldn't be as well.
I'm with you. I have a rule that would eliminate that anyways, but yeah, I think you want to play. I wouldn't play them without Flacco.
Austin Williams asking who our favorite sleeper wide receiver is this week. Now this, we'll get to wide receiver as a whole in a little bit, but I think the Green Bay receivers not named Dontavian Wicks are kind of the sleeper options at receiver today, because Reed and Dobbs both aren't picking up very much ownership.
I'm going to have a lot of Jaden Reed. I feel like Jaden Reed's just going to be played regardless. But yeah,
I do think so, but people have just been burned so much by him lately. I think they're kind of scarred off of him picking up too much ownership.
Yeah, that could be the case, but you're also he's like your main passing option in that in the only dome game. And then we do have, not that the weather is something you should be totally afraid of, but I feel like people will would rather just gravitate towards the dome like we talked about at the top of the show.
Donnie bringing up a good point about, he says he doesn't trust the Green Bay wide receiver ownership because like a lot of sites have been touting them. I agree with you. I hear that for sure.
I've heard it all week is play Green Bay. Yeah.
But at the same time, Brian Thomas Jr., Josh Downs, Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Calvin Ridley, Jordan Addison, Jacoby Myers, Jalen McMillan. All of those are really good options as well for their prices. So who's that ownership coming from if the Green Bay receivers are going to be highly owned? I do think Ridley is going to be the one that we're projecting for 18% ownership right now. I don't think he'll be that high. I think he's going to be lower, and maybe some of that ownership goes to Dobbs and Reed. But I'm willing to bet that I would almost guarantee that Romeo Dobbs is single-digit ownership this week. I could see Jaden Reed bumping up a little bit, but I could almost guarantee Romeo Dobbs will be single-digit ownership. Nobody ever plays him.
I agree with you. No one ever plays him, and they probably should because for whatever reason, Jordan Love seems to target him continuously.
He's the one guy that's on the field all the time.
On the field the most, yeah.
I mean, like in two wide receiver sets, it's Dobbs and Wicks. Like Reed's not even on the field. And so they run a ton of 3 wide receiver sets and give him specific plays for him, so it doesn't really matter. But Dobbs is just kind of on the field all the time. So I think that's what benefits him, is it's not like his per route usage is that good, but his snap share is so high and his route share is so high that it gets him there. Shannon asking about Jonathan Taylor this week. I agree. Jonathan Taylor is very interesting. I'm not getting to as much as I wanted because I'm prioritizing Saquon Barkley over him, but Jonathan Taylor against the Giants, you should absolutely smash.
I prefer Saquon too, but just to throw this out there, our Sims love the Colts today, and they really like Jonathan Taylor. Second high, they have Josh Downs as the highest owned Colt, but Jonathan Taylor right there behind him.
All right. We'll see. That's about it for questions for now, and then we will let's start talking about quarterbacks. You're playing 150 lineups plus the 3 in the big contest today. How many do you have in your pool for 150?
I'll have about 10 quarterbacks in my pool for 150. I'm running it right now. Why don't you get in your quarterbacks and then I'll talk about mine.
Yeah, so I have 8 in my pool of 20 right now. My hardest cuts, the guys that I like the best that I'm not playing. Bryce Young against Tampa, I think, is interesting just because of how bad Tampa's pass defense has been throughout the year. Instead, I'm just playing Adam Thielen because they're pretty soft up the middle and they're pretty good on the outsides. And so I'm just playing Thielen and I'm going to leave Bryce Young off. If I were running more lineups, I would maybe take shots on Kenny Pickett or Cooper Rush. Maybe I'd take a shot on Drew Lock, but that'd be about it for me. Like Tyler Huntley, mid-price, 4K. Sure, you can do some cool stuff with that lineup, but I don't really need a 4K quarterback who's probably going to score maximum 15 points, and that's if he gets a rushing touchdown. You know what I mean? I want a guy who's going to put up 30 today. And so my cheap shots I'm taking are going to be Mac Jones, Aiden O'Connell, Mason Rudolph, and Joe Flacco, all guys who have flashed big ceilings this season. I think Flacco, I thought he was going to be picking up a little bit more ownership. I don't actually think he's as good as some people may think he is in this spot, because I think Rich Rebar made a really good point on the Pick 6 show this week, and that's we don't really want Flacco in a game that they're expected to win. You know, we don't want game manager ball control Flacco. We want 2 touchdown underdogs throwing 40 passes Flacco. And so I think this is more likely to be a slow Jonathan Taylor game. Flacco probably only throws the ball 22, 25 times. And then that kind of limits the ceiling a little bit. So I'm getting to 2 Flacco lineups out of 20, 2 Rudolph lineups out of 20, 1 O'Connell, I think 1 Mac Jones, which leaves me about 12 left between Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Jordan Love. And so those guys are my 4 favorites. Love and Darnold are great. They're going to be chalky. Mayfield is projecting to be pretty chalky. I don't think he's going to be that highly owned. And then Josh Allen, if I was looking at it and all week I was kind of thinking Sam Darnold is the cash quarterback, and he is, as Swaggy P says right there. And Rob B's asking it all week on DraftKings. I've been thinking Sam Darnold is the cash game quarterback, and he probably still is the right answer. But I don't think you're wrong to go to Josh Allen because we have the value. And so if you're looking at your cash game running backs and you say, I want to play Bucky Irving and Tajay Spears, both of them, you're likely playing one of Taylor or Barkley with them, but you're playing those 2 running backs nice and cheap. You look at the receiver position and say, okay, well, I probably want to play Josh Downs. I want to play Brian Thomas. And if you're looking and you play somebody like a Wicks or a Myers or a Ridley as your third option, all of a sudden you have a lot of salary left on the table. If you're not playing Brock Bowers, it's at tight end, you got a lot of salary on the table. So I think a lot of people could end up looking at a lineup and saying, do I want to play Josh Allen and TJ Hawkinson in cash, or do I want to play Sam Darnold and Brock Bowers? And I think that's a tough 2v2.
I would just take the rushing equity with Allen. I liked Allen all week too.
I think projections will say still to do Darnold and Bowers, but I think I like the Allen Hawkinson side.
Yeah, the Allen Hawkinson side I think would be the one I'd lean.
So Darnold is your best point per dollar option cash QB on DraftKings, but with the amount of value we have now, I don't think there's anything wrong with going all the way up to Josh Allen. On FanDuel, I think my top option for a cash quarterback is going to be Jaden Daniels at 8,500. If you're not going all the way up to Daniels, Darnold is fine at 77. I don't think it would be crazy to go O'Connell at 68 or Flacco at 6 if you land there. But Darnold or Daniels, with Daniels being my preference, would be the cash quarterback on DraftKings, on FanDuel. Did you figure out how many guys going to be in the pool?
Yeah, I want to hit on Allen. Like both these teams, Allen and Aaron Rodgers have played in not the greatest weather throughout their careers. Like this game could end up pushing. I really like Allen. Where do we have Allen currently owned?
9%.
Yeah, I think Allen. It makes a good bit of sense to get over on Allen.
Yeah.
Jordan Love's my number 1, followed by Sam Darnold, followed by Joe Flacco. I'll be playing Aiden O'Connell, Allen and Rodgers and Baker, and Bryce Young rounds it out. That's who I got currently. Should I be interested in any Kenny Pickett? Like, I know they can just easily hand the ball off to Saquon in this game, but guys like A.J. Brown aren't going to be played. And A.J. Brown, it seemed like Kenny Pickett was just targeting him consistently last week. So that game versus Washington was also very up in pace where not really sure that'll be the situation with the CeeDee Lamb-less Dallas team. So
if I was running 150 lineups, I would probably build a few lineups that were basically optimal, but with Pickett and AJ Brown around it. Just because you don't need to get different anywhere else if you're doing that.
Yeah.
But I would need to be playing an absolute ton of lineups to get there. Like I wouldn't be able to in my 20 entry max. We got a funny question from JW in chat. Just looked at the export survey from Ebeimfohr. Who the hell is Ryan Flournoy? Well, Flournoy is the guy filling in for CeeDee Lamb this week, or I think expected to get in, pick up some more snaps for Dallas. I'm not getting any Flournoy, but Ebeimfohr can definitely give you the lowdown when he's here for the next show. In about 45 minutes from now, Erik and Neil are going to come in for GPP Final Takes. And then we got Tim and Will bringing you all the way up to lock for NFL Crunch Time. They'll be answering your questions. They'll be giving you the best plays for cash and GPPs. And they'll help you go build your cash game lineup, even if you don't have full access to the RotoGrinders tools. Now, if you don't have full access to the RotoGrinders tools, we want to help you out because the holiday season brings us some huge DFS contests for NBA and NFL, including $2 million to first tonight in a DraftKings contest. We want you to have a massive holiday takedown, so we're taking $10 off your first month of Combo Lite. You just spent $3,333 to enter a contest, so you can't afford your subscription. Well, good, we got you covered. It's $19.99. It's affordable. It's cheaper than any of the Christmas presents you bought, and it's one of the best ways to get inexpensive access to some incredible tools and some incredible insights from the RotoGrinders experts. And if you haven't signed up for Splash Sports still, now is the time. Use promo code ROTO10. And if you play $100 in Quick Picks, you'll get another $50. We do have a video from Chop coming up here for Splash Sports as well that we will be getting to shortly. But I want to give you a chance to finish up on your top QBs before we do that.
I pretty much rounded them out. Said it was Jordan Love, Darnold, Flacco, Josh Allen, Rodgers, Mayfield, and Bryce Young. I guess you can add Kenny Pickett to that. That's pretty much it.
I heard you bringing him up. I remember you bringing him up on the Tournament Takes show. Joy Boy Mac wondering, do you have any interest in looking at Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I said Rodgers after Allen.
Oh, my bad.
Or I did the first time.
If you're playing Rodgers, are you going to double stack him with both Adams and Wilson?
I would be, definitely doubling him. I'm pretty positive. I guess you can play Rodgers and Adams together, and it's fine.
Would you? And then I assume if you do double stack, James Cook would probably be.
James Cook would be my run back. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my favorite place to play Cook. Is in a run back for Rodgers. The scary thing for Cook is I just feel like he needs to break a long run to get there because of how much they integrate Tyler Johnson and Ray Davis. But he proved last week. So he proved he absolutely can do it.
That is a good point though, because it seems like there's a lot of opportunity costs at running back, and then you're going to add those two into the mix with Cook. It does kind of hinder his ceiling. So maybe I should temper my expectations a little bit, but I still think Cook should be in your pool.
JD Eddie asking if anyone has a 3K receiver. We just joked about how Erik Beimfohr has Ryan Flournoy tagged, but I also like a 3K receiver for Tampa Bay today. Ryan Miller, I think, is somewhat interesting. Getting more snaps out of the slot without Sterling Shepard there. Shepard and K. Dotton both ruled out. And so I think Miller is interesting at 3K. Beimfohr has Flournoy tagged. And then if you can get up to 3,400, I think Kevontae Turpin, although he won't be on the field very much, I think he's going to get some targets and some high-value targets in this game with some design plays for him. And we got some design plays for you on Splash Sports. Check out splashsports.com/RotoGrinders homepage and check out this video from Chop for the best plays for Week 17.
What up, everybody? Chop here talking Splash Sports Quick Picks. Two little picks for you this week in the NFL. Let's get it cranked up with Bucky Irving over 10.5 for the longest reception. Since he kind of took over this backfield here, the last 10 games, he's hit this number 8 of the last 10 games. The Bucks cannot afford to lose another game. I like Irving to get plenty of snaps this weekend and plenty of opportunities. Next up, we're going Calvin Ridley over 59.5 receiving yards. Why? I like the quarterback change. Will Levis being benched helps him immensely. So we'll go Ridley with the boost. If you're into the whole revenge thing, it's also a revenge narrative. Don't forget, if you play $100 in Quick Picks, you get $50 for free if you use the promo code ROTO10. It's as simple as that. Till next week, I'm Chop. I'm out of here.
There you go. Some picks on Splash Sports from our guy Chop. I know when the Crunch Time crew gets here, we'll definitely have some more props for the people as well if you got them. So make sure to ask those questions to him. And you can ask questions to us. Get in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat. Get in the YouTube chat. YouTube, smash that like button for us. We already got over 400 people watching early in the morning for YouTube, but only 62 likes. Let's get us up over 100 likes here. And Bobby and I will have some slate breaking plays for you. So if you want those, you got to be up over 100 likes. Otherwise, we're keeping them to ourselves. We're going to be sneaky. We're keeping them to ourselves. So YouTube, smash that like button. You're watching on your computer? take your mouse, slide it over, click like. You're watching on your phone. It takes 2 steps. Look at this. I'll give you the exact steps. You see my nice little Iron Man phone case here? You pull up YouTube. Here it is. We got it. Oh, there's our show right at the top. NFL DFS. Oh, that's a little loud. That's a little loud. Can we exit that? There we go. And we go X, hide chat, hit the like button, bang, and then it's done. So smash that like button for us. Which games do you recommend fading the passing games because of weather? I don't think I'm going to outright full fade any of these games because of weather. Now, I would not play anyone in Miami and Cleveland, but that's because both quarterbacks are terrible in addition to the weather. Because there's so many weather games, it does definitely amplify Darnold and Love as the stud dome game guys today. Imagine saying that last year that Sam Darnold was going to be one of the stud quarterbacks on the slate, but he is. They're going to amplify them, but almost every other game is dealing with some weather, so I don't think you have to worry about fully fading any because of that. Let's go to the wide receiver position. We've got a few questions about it. Donnie Watson asking if you're a fan of does Leggett affect Coker? I don't like either of them today because I think Adam Thielen is the only wide receiver for the Panthers I want to get to. Tampa Bay gives up a lot of stuff down the middle and in the slot. Is Jonnu Smith a bad option with a backup QB? Nobody asks. Yes, I think he is. I don't think you want Jonnu. Unless you're talking season long, you don't have any other options, then you still start him. Cash game running back pool. You're playing Spears. You're playing Kyrie. You're playing Bucky Irving. And you're probably playing Barkley or Jonathan Taylor or Aaron Jones with them. I think it's a 3 RB week. You're playing Bucky and Spears for sure. And you're going Jones, Taylor, or Barkley as your third running back for cash. Let's talk about receivers. How big's your receiver pool-ish going to be? You know, it's tough to count that, but like
it's
round-ish. And then who are some of your favorites?
Yeah, so currently have 21 receivers. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, I think are 2 guys that I have a good bit of interest in. The Green Bay guys, which we talked about, Wicks, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs. I think those guys are fine. Justin Jefferson, Addison, and Mike Evans. Those will probably be the top guys. And you can include Brian Thomas, and really it's pretty much like those are like the main receivers that I'm playing. If I had to give a GPP one that I think is super interesting, AJ Brown to me is going to be the guy. I think AJ Brown's probably going to be my favorite tournament receiver, I would say, the more I think about it. Really like AJ Brown. Favorite tournament receiver outside of Green Bay, yeah, AJ Brown. Outside of Jaden Reed in Green Bay.
This is 12, 13, 14, 15. The smallest wide receiver pool I've had all season. 20 lineups, 15 receivers. So keeping it really, really small. Dontavian Wicks is going to be my highest owned. I have about 50% Dontavian Wicks. Reed 30%, Dobbs 25%. But then I'm also getting to about 40% of Justin Jefferson, Josh Downs, and Brian Thomas. Those are going to be my 3. Jefferson in the higher up and Thomas in the mid tier are going to be my go-tos. And then we're looking at Green Bay and Tampa Bay guys. So 29% and Vikings. So 29% Addison, 29% Reed, 24% Dobbs, 24% McMillan. We haven't really talked about McMillan yet, but he's in a great spot. He's been picking up more targets each week from Baker Mayfield. They're without Cade Otton. They're without Sterling Shepard. And so Mike Evans is going to be picking up some ownership today. I think Jalen McMillan is a nice, cheap pivot. I like Mike. I'm getting to 2 Mike Pittman lineups, but Michael Pittman only with Joe Flacco for me. Otherwise, it's only in stacks. Otherwise, I'd just rather play Josh Downs. Gets far more targets, especially with Flacco. And then guys that I'm just mixing in like 1% of, Ryan Miller, Westbrook Akine, Kobe Myers, Adam Thielen, 1 lineup guys for me. I think I forgot to mention Ridley, but I am getting to him as well.
Yeah, sounds good.
Of the expensive guys, like I liked AJ Brown. I'm just couldn't find myself getting there because I would rather play Mike Evans than AJ Brown, I think. But I like it's tough not to talk about AJ Brown a little bit, because I hear you. It's tough not to like him when Pickett was just staring at him and targeting him like crazy when he went in the game last week.
Yeah, from a wide receiver position, like AJ Brown, Devontae Smith aren't going to be utilized. Everyone's just expects Saquon to go in there, and I honestly love Saquon as a play, but I just think the passing game for the Eagles has like, and relative to the context of the slate, has significant upside in the spot versus Dallas. There's a lot of opportunity costs at running back, so maybe if Saquon doesn't hit my team and I have another running back plugged in there, I can get to paying up at wide receiver and differentiating myself that way. So that's why I don't mind getting to AJ Brown. I think he would be the main Eagle that I'd want to target.
Alan S. asking Strange/Spears in DK GPP. Is that an either or? Because the either or doesn't really make sense. That would definitely be Spears. But if you're asking if both are fine, yes, both are fine. Strange is a very interesting GPP play that we'll get to at tight end, but lost some snaps last week. If he's back to his normal tight end one role, he's the best tight end play on the slates and nobody's playing him. Or he could just not be playing at all because maybe they're like, hey, we've had enough of your screw ups and we're going with the Guerra now or something like that. So that is a very, very interesting play for tournaments this week. Say you have 7,900 remaining for a flex position. Saquon Barkley is not in your lineup, nor is Josh Downs or Michael Pittman. Are you playing AJ Brown or Jonathan Taylor?
I would play JT, but I do think that AJ Brown is fine. Better than fine. I just think he's Jonathan Taylor is like the simming so well in our stuff. If you gave me another running back against Taylor, I'd probably say Brown.
Ruthless Villain in chat is saying he wants to play Dallas defense today. I think it's viable against Pickett. Now, I'm not getting to it really because I'm playing a lot of Saquon Barkley, but I don't hate the idea of a lineup where you're fading AJ Brown, you're fading Saquon Barkley, and you need a cheap defense. It makes sense to go to Cowboys. Micah Parsons can cause havoc all on his own, and their defense has been playing a lot better lately. And so I do think it is somewhat viable to go, hey, I actually, if I don't have Barkley or AJ Brown in my lineup, I go with some Dallas Cowboys defense. Do you have any long shot receivers that say, you're only playing 5-10% of, but nobody else is going to be playing at all?
I would say Garrett Wilson. Also Devontae Adams. What do we have for their ownership? I don't think it's going to be that high.
No, especially Adams with the Q tag all week. They're saying he's good to go, but I think that'll keep his ownership down. Devontae Adams, 15%. Garrett Wilson, 10%.
Yeah, either or. And AJ Brown, what are we getting for AJ Brown?
AJ Brown, 10%.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What do you think of Malik Neighbors? We've had a few questions about him.
So the Colts are showing very, very well in Sims, and I think he's the obvious run back. The obvious run back. We talked about Tracy earlier, but Neighbors would be the guy. And I think that game stack makes a good bit of sense because it's super condensed on the Giants side, and then it's super condensed on the Indy side, really. So I like that game.
All right. Isn't there a Devontae and Aaron Rodgers 500th passing touchdown narrative this week? I'm not sure how many touchdowns does. Let's search Aaron Rodgers career touchdown passes. How many is he at? 499. So yeah, Maybe they do want to give. It'd be fun to give a little Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers.
He's getting that this week.
500 touchdown. If they get to the 1 yard line, I'm sure that we're going to get at least 2 shots to Devontae Adams there. So maybe that gives you a little boost, but I don't think I'd necessarily be building my lineups around that. Are we not on the Minnesota wide receivers? Yeah, we are. We love
Justin. No, we are. It's just like obvious. Jefferson, Addison.
Like everybody is too, though.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson is my second highest owned receiver behind Dontavian Wicks, and Jordan Addison is like 5th. Yeah, 5th. So goes Wicks, Jefferson, Downs, Thomas, Addison for me. So we absolutely love the Minnesota wide receivers, but everybody else does as well. So
we love Mike Evans too, but
yeah, Mike Evans, another guy in a good spot. Brink7 saying, QQ, I'm thinking about going all in on the Minnesota Green Bay game on FanDuel. Is it a good idea? Is it as good of an idea on FanDuel with the Washington Atlanta game looming in the background for Sunday night? How big of a factor is that Washington game on FanDuel? Yeah, I think it's totally fine. Just still all out game stack this one, Green Bay and the Vikings on FanDuel. The Washington game looming. The only one that really scares me is Jaden Daniels. Like, that's the one guy that I think, say Love throws 303, but Jaden Daniels throws for 303 and 80 rushing yards, all of a sudden, you're worried a little bit. But I don't think it's such a massive spot that you go, hey, I need a Washington player in every single lineup, because they're pretty expensive. McLaurin's price is up there. I do like the idea of a Jaden Daniels, Zach Ertz, Bijan Robinson mini stack of that game. But I don't think you need to say, oh, I don't have a Washington player or I don't have an Atlanta player. I got to rebuild my whole lineup. I don't think it's anything like that this slate. I do really like Jaden Daniels, but if you're not playing him at quarterback, I don't necessarily think you need a Washington player. Brian Robinson Jr. is fine, but I don't think you really, really need it. Single bullet in the $20 Millie Maker, Bobby. If I'm playing chalk running backs, who would be your way to differentiate it? Who would be your favorite way to differentiate a quarterback, assuming they're playing Spears and Irving?
If they're playing chalk running backs, maybe play Kenny Pickett, AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith.
That's a great way to get
it. AJ Brown specifically.
Yeah.
You don't have to double Kenny Pickett.
I think going up to Josh Allen is another way to get a little bit different there.
I think that's actually the better way, going to Josh Allen.
And then you can probably still afford AJ Brown.
What?
And you could probably still afford AJ Brown with, like, if you're going like cheap chalk running backs.
Yeah, but if you go Josh Allen and you like double him or single stack him with a Jets running back, you're just playing Evans at that point, correct? Like, why would you go up to AJ Brown?
If I have 7,800 remaining, I'm fine going AJ Brown over Mike Evans, just straight up. Especially if I have Bucky Irving in the lineup. But it's just, I'm not gonna change anything if I wanted AJ Brown, but I only have 77 or less, then like Mike Evans, great. I'm all good with him. Shiv Daddy asking if Black Shear's been discussed. Yes, only 4K, splitting work, probably not going to get there. Who do you like better today, Jordan Addison or Brian Thomas Jr.?
I would say Jordan Addison.
To me, yeah, it depends on the rest of my lineup. If I don't have a Viking, it's Jordan Addison. If I'm playing Aaron Jones or Justin Jefferson and I don't have Darnold, then I would get up to BTJ. But I want to make sure I get exposure to that Vikings offense in this game. And so I just Addison over BTJ if I have no Viking, BTJ over Addison if I do. Is McMillan the best pivot from Downs? In that same price range, I would say in terms of like an ownership pivot, the best option would be 300 more to get to Romeo Dobbs. Jalen McMillan's not going to be all that much lower owned than Josh Downs. We're currently projecting, latest run, 29% for Downs, so an even bigger jump for him. And so about double, yeah, so that is great with about 29% for Downs, 13% for McMillan. So yes, that would be the best pivot in that range. I like McMillan a lot today for tournaments without Kate Otten, without Sterling Shepard. Joseph Ivy says, "Where's the Brock Bowers love? He's on the verge of breaking the rookie receiving record." Well, Joseph Ivy, we're not at tight end yet, so it's tough to give him a lot of love when we are not covering yet the position that he plays for. But that is the next one we are pivoting to here. Do you have any other final thoughts at wide receiver before we switch to tight end?
I'll say this: Josh Downs is going to be the highest owned receiver on the slate currently.
Yeah, he is all the way up near 30%. Big boost in that last ownership one. Brian Thomas Jr. down to 18.7%. So it seems as though Brian Thomas Jr., people are getting scared off of the wind a little bit. The wind and the rain is scaring people off of Brian Thomas Jr. Wicks's ownership has gone up in the last update. AJ Brown still at 10. Jaden Reed and Romeo Dobbs still sub 10%. And Dobbs has dropped from 9 projected to 6.7. So even with the new ownership updates, not looking like the receivers outside of Wicks are going to be too chalky. It looks like everyone's just going Wicks. Is Jonathan Taylor going to smash again for Indy? Yeah, probably. Both Bobby and I are getting to more Barkley than Taylor, but we do both like Taylor as well. To me, like I could
see him. I imagine he did it versus Tennessee and then just completely bust versus this lowly Giants defense as chalk. Taylor.
Yeah,
Tennessee had the best run D in the league, and he goes for 30 last week, and then this week.
He's been doing that all year. Like, he's not done great against the bad teams, and then, yeah, it's annoying. But
that's a cause for concern. I don't know how you weigh that in projections, though.
Swaggy P just missed your take. Who is going to be the highest owned receiver today? Josh Downs. Josh Downs is the one projecting to be the highest owned receiver. Let's pivot over to the tight end position. Not as strong as it has been the last few weeks. We've had most of our good tight ends already play throughout the week, leaving Brock Bowers as the lone stud. You're looking at 3 different options from a cash game perspective. There's 4 guys you can consider in cash, actually. Brock Bowers, TJ Hawkinson, Jake Ferguson, Payne Durham. I think you're basically filling this position out last, unless you say Brock Bowers is a target for me. He's the only guy at this position who could score 20 plus, and he could score 30 plus. He could outscore everybody else at tight end by 15 points today. So if you want to just make sure you're locking in Brock Bowers, I have no problem with that at all, especially if you're playing some Darnold at QB. You should for sure be able to afford that in cash. Otherwise, I think you just leave the position for last and see how much salary you have left. It's in the 4 to 5K range, you got Hawkinson. 3 to 4K range, you have Ferguson. And if you need a full-out punt, you have Payne Durham. I think those are the top 4 options on the slate. Got other guys I'm considering are Brenton Strange. He was the chalkiest tight end on the slate last week. Everybody loved him. It's the same spot. We just don't know whether or not he's still going to be in the full starting role. If he is, 4K for Brenton Strange at 3% ownership, best tight end play on the slate by far. If he's not, well, those lineups don't work. But I think it makes a lot of sense if you're playing a lot of lineups today, getting 10, 15, 20% Brenton Strange, get way over the field, because it's such a high upside spot if he goes back to 10 target Brenton Strange. 11, like he had 12 targets 2 games ago, and then they benched him in the second half last week. So if he's back full normal, he's going to absolutely crush. Dave Gold asked in chat, sign in late. Can you recap why Wicks is so popular? Because Christian Watson is out. That's why. And it's a great matchup in a dome. Jake Ferguson, no CeeDee Lamb, should get extra targets and a positive game script against Philly. I'm playing Tucker Kraft specifically with Jordan Love, $3,900. Hopefully get a few extra targets without.
Is Tucker Kraft like not going to be owned in comparison to these high round tight ends? I feel like it's tough to predict. Where do we have him currently in terms of ownership?
8%. So he's behind Ferguson, Bowers, Hawkinson, Durham, Okongwu, and Kincaid.
I wonder if that'll be higher than where we currently have it. I feel like it would be. Doesn't matter though. I think Kraft's probably my favorite tight end play.
The reason why it may not be is because everybody, if they're playing Love, they're going to want to play Wicks, and they're probably going to want to play Reed. And people so rarely triple stack, like that's, to me, if Love is optimal, it's because he throws 4 touchdown passes. It's not like he's running a lot, right?
Which I think he did in the first game versus Minnesota.
Yeah, almost never happens though.
Yeah.
So in terms of the running. And so like I love the triple stack play Kraft with those receivers, but I don't think many are going to do it.
Well, Kraft's the one Musgrave's back now, so you can't even.
Yeah, Musgrave's nothing. Kraft is in that starter role.
I know. So between Kraft and Reed, who would you prefer? I know Blender preferred Kraft. I preferred Reed, but Blender made a really good case for Kraft, and that he's probably going to be on the field more.
In a vacuum, Kraft, but sorry, in a vacuum Reed for sure. But it just depends on the rest of my lineup. Like because I am doing so much triple stacking, it's really like I'm only playing Kraft with Jordan Love, whereas Reed I am playing on his own.
Yeah.
Brenton Strange, I mentioned for punts, Payne Durham is obviously the top option. He got 7 targets last week, I think, in maybe 8 in Cade Otton's absence. And then this week we're missing Sterling Shepard as well, so he should have a solid role. The only other one I'd target, and I don't think anybody's going to do it, but I think it's super interesting, is Jordan Akins. He's 2,700. There's no David Njoku. And with Dorian Thompson-Robinson last week, David Njoku got like just absolutely peppered with these short check down targets. 10 targets last week from Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And so I like the idea of going to Jordan Akins just to catch a whole bunch of point per reception checkdowns in a game that's going to have a ton of wind, where Thompson-Robinson's probably going to have a ton of pressure on him. I like the idea of getting to a little Jordan Akins as a punt, just thinking he could have 7 catches for 40 yards kind of thing, which is great for a $2,700 tight end. Coker, Wicks, or Wandale, which of these for a cheap wide receiver on FanDuel? Wicks is the clear top option, but he will also be the highest owned. Wandale would be my favorite pivot, but I think that's more of a DraftKings play, so I would just be going with Wicks there. Who do you like at tight end today?
Payne Durham for the price and what I think you'll see for targets. I think he's going to be someone I'm going to have a good allocation to, but everyone else I feel like is going to do the same thing. Hawkinson, Bowers. One we didn't mention, Chigo Okonkwo. I know we're worried about the weather there, but I think if everyone's just going to play Ridley, I'd rather play Chig.
Chig's actually picking up a lot of ownership too, which I found weird.
Yeah, it's that game's tough in general. Dalton Kincaid, I don't think is going to get, like, if I'm playing Allen, I think Kincaid is probably like my favorite target to pair with him. Just single stack him with Kincaid and build my lineup, have a run back from the Jets. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We talked about Tucker Kraft, so don't really have to get into that.
Who would be, if you were, I know you're not a cash game guy, but if you were, who do you think you'd be trying to get between Ferguson, Bowers, Durham, and Hawkinson? What type of build do you think you'd go? The cheap all the way down to Durham, the mid tier, or all the way up to Bowers?
I think I'd go all the way down to Durham.
Swaggy P asking Addison or Adam Thielen today. Addison by a lot, but I do still like Thielen. Mr. Wessels asking, I'm jumping around. Did I hear you say fade Jonnu and other Miami receivers due to weather? I'm fading them due to Tyler Huntley.
Yeah, we're fading them due to Tyler Huntley. This was a stack that, like, I think we were both probably playing just because how condensed it is. If Tua was in,
especially with Waddle out, it's just such a clear. Yeah. It was such a clear Tua, Achane, Jonnu, and Tyreek. Triple stack with him. You get all of the production if they go off. But no, it's Tyler Huntley is the reason we're not playing them. If you're talking season long, it depends on your other options. I don't know. I'd 100% fade Tyreek, 100% fade Jonnu if I don't have any other clear options. I'm not going to play I'm not going to go and pick up Tommy Tremble or Foster Moreau off the waiver wire instead of Jonnu Smith. I'm absolutely still playing Jonnu Smith. But in DFS, no. Mr. Wessel saying Ferguson or Jonnu today for season long. That's Ferguson. Ferguson is the one there for me for sure. B says, I'm trying to get off Brian Thomas Jr. in cash now with the weather. Is that too much panic? I'm having trouble finding something else I like, even with switching to Bowers at tight end. I don't think you need to worry about it. Just play Brian Thomas.
Yeah, you should still play him in cash for sure.
Yeah, I still think you're just playing Brian Thomas. Durham or Ferguson today? Raw points, it's Ferguson. Like if you're talking season long, just straight up raw points, it's Ferguson. But that $900 salary savings is pretty viable or $800 from Ferguson to Durham. So raw points, Ferguson by far, but point per dollar, maybe some pain, Durham. On the Tournament Take show, Bobby, they call you the defensive specialist, the guru, the wizard with defense. It seems like I don't mind the Bills, the Colts, the Dolphins, the Eagles, all above 3K. But this feels like a great week to punt defense.
Yeah, it's a good week to punt defense. There's also the Raiders playing Spencer Rattler. And I know they're going to be chalky, but sometimes you just play the right plays, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just want to see salary for defense.
Cowboys and Browns are my two favorite. I feel like they're right in line with the Raiders today.
Yeah, I think the Browns I would probably prefer to the Cowboys, but I think the Cowboys is a really good call too. I just like Kenny Pickett. Like I'm kind of bullish on Pickett to AJ Brown today for whatever reason.
Yeah, I like the Browns better than Cowboys as well. I'm playing so much Barkley. I like getting to the Cowboys defense in the few lineups that I don't actually have an eagle on them. Not concerned about the Eagles defense against tight ends. No, because Ferguson 3,700, he's probably going to get double-digit targets. So it doesn't really, that's all that really matters to me in this spot. We've hit it, all of the QQs. We should have the GPP Final Takes crew coming in about, we should have them coming in about 10, 15 minutes here. If you got any last minute questions for us, feel free to get them in. We'll go through a few recap stuff here for all the people. And also make sure you are smashing that like button. I said we'd get the slate breaking plays when we got over 100 likes. We have gotten over 100 likes. And so as soon as the GPP Final Takes guys get here, we got our transition. We will give you our slate breaking plays. But still, more viewers coming in as the morning goes on. So up to 500 now on YouTube, 1,300 overall across the sites. Smash the like button wherever you are watching us. Help us out. Hit the notification bell. Subscribe. Free content on a Sunday morning, week 17. Let's all win some money and help us by hitting that like button. Who do you like better today? Just straight up. Zach Ertz, Payne Durham.
Payne Durham.
I think not considering salary, I'd rather go Ertz just in case that's like a season-long question.
It's a FanDuel question, correct?
Or yeah, or if it's FanDuel. It doesn't say on the format, but I feel like not considering salaries, I'd like Ertz, but if Durham's considerably cheaper where you're looking, then I like him. It says it's on FanDuel.
Yeah. I like Durham. Ertz just hasn't done it, and he keeps projecting well, and I'm just not going to do it to myself.
Yeah, I think I like Ertz more in games that I don't expect them to win, like when Jaden Daniels has to be throwing the ball a little bit more. Sam Darnold or Jordan Love in cash. That would be Sam Darnold as the cash game option today. Who would be your number one top tournament play on the slate, regardless of position?
Probably Jaden Reed.
Jaden Reed for you. I think for me, I wanted to say Bucky Irving, but he's picking up more ownership than I thought he would.
Bucky's gonna get played.
I'm just gonna say it's Saquon. Like Saquon is gonna be that guy for me today. I have about 80% or 70%, so I'm going way, way over the field. Alan S asking that question: Barkley or JT in a DK GPP? I think we both give the slight preference to Barkley. Do we like Aaron Jones? Michael's asking. Yes, we do. He is my 4th highest owned running back. We both like some Aaron Jones. Cash 2v2, Justin Jefferson and Durham, or Evans and Ferguson. I would go Justin Jefferson and Durham in that scenario.
I'd go Jefferson, the Jefferson side too.
Top QB on the slate. Who do you got?
Josh Allen.
Yeah, tough not to go with Josh Allen as well. I'm going to say I think I'll go Jordan Love for my GPP top QBs. Top running back on the slate.
I'm with you with Barkley.
Yeah, Barkley, definitely my favorite spend up. Tajay Spears looks great. Bucky Irving looks great. I'm just keeping a super tight pool. Barkley, Irving, Spears, Jonathan Taylor. Did I have anybody else? And Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is the 5th one. Those are the guys that I'm going all in on today. Top receiver on the slate.
Shoot. Can I go Jaden Reed again?
Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. Jaden Reed, your top receiver. Mine. You know, it's tough when you're playing a lot of chalky options because I don't want to say Brian Thomas or Jesse.
Yeah, you could easily. I didn't want to say Evans. But.
Don't want to say Josh Downs. I'm going to go Jalen McMillan as my favorite in reference to, in comparison to his ownership today. Top tight end play on the slate. It's obviously Bowers, but we can say other than Bowers.
I don't want to give 2 Packers and then not play Jordan Love as my top QB. I'm going to go Chigo Okonkwo.
I will say, I'm getting the most. The guy I'm getting to the most is Payne Durham, but I'm going to say Brenton Strange for large field tournaments. I think he's such a good play today in large field tournaments. Finally, favorite defense on the slate.
The Raiders for Spencer Rattler. I know they're chalky, but whatever.
I will go with the Browns against the Tua-less and Waddle-less Dolphins in a really bad weather game. FanDuel, you going with Garrett Wilson or Jordan Addison?
Addison.
Yeah, same here for me. Thoughts on Kendre Miller versus Vegas? I do think he's a great play for his ownership. Now, I'm not getting there in my 20 lineups, but if I was playing 150, I'd absolutely be getting overweight to the 3% ownership we're projecting him, mostly specifically in Aiden O'Connell, Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers stacks. Now, I like Kendre Miller for his ownership. I'm just not getting up to the 20%. I'm just not getting to it in 20 lineups. Chris Longo likes Colts defense. Yes, I think they are great today. Allen Robinson says, I don't get the Jordan Love hype. From week 9 on, he's only topped 20 fantasy points once and has been under 15 5 times. He just can't do it. Well, if you just can't do it, there's nothing wrong with that. Reason we like him is because he's projecting for the 4th highest owned quarterback, so not too crazy. He's in a dome against the pass funnel defense.
And you're taking Christian Watson out, so they'll be a little bit more condensed than what they are.
Exactly. It's much more condensed stack, so it's easier to get to without Watson. Plus, like we said, they're big game in a dome, slight underdogs, pass funnel. Dystopia says, can we fade the mega chalk running backs today? You can always do it. You can always do it. I'm not today. I'm playing them. But if you want to roll out Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall,
I think Breece Hall is a
And
super
James
interesting one.
I mean, maybe not James Cook and Breece Hall in the same lineup, but like guys like that, super low owned. Absolutely, you can fade those guys. He does say he thinks Tajay Spears fails so easily. I will heavily disagree on that one because I think
I'm with the fail there. I don't know. I'm just currently keep leaning to the fail there.
What's the scenario in which he does? Jacksonville just scores 3 total, or Tennessee just scores 3 total points.
There's just so many strong running backs. I know his price is fantastic.
I guess that's the biggest path to me is not him failing,
but like others hitting
others going off.
He can't hit. Yeah.
Tennessee doesn't score very many touchdowns, so he finishes with 30 yards rushing and 30 yards receiving on 4 or 5 catches. He gets 11, 12 fantasy points. And Barkley, Taylor, all these other guys put up 20 to 30. That's absolutely how he fails. But I just think the floor is so great because he's game script proof.
So you prefer
down, he's going to catch passes.
Spears to Bucky? Would you prefer Spears to Bucky? Sorry for cutting you off there.
You're good. So I have Bucky in, I think, like 17 of 20 lineups, and I have Spears in 18 of 20.
Okay.
So like I love both of them. It just depends on the rest of my lineup and the price range that I need. But I would rank them in terms of my priorities: Spears 1, Bucky 2, Barkley 3, Aaron Jones 4. That's how I think I'm doing it. Swaggy P says, season-long question, Deebo Samuels or Tajay Spears. I would go Tajay Spears on that one. That's about it for questions leading up to lock. We're going to have the GPP Final Takes crew, Erik and Neil, coming in here any minute. We're going to have the Crunch Time crew coming in after that. Tim and Will lead you right up to lock. I'm not actually going anywhere. I'm going to stay here behind the scenes right to lock. On the producing side of things, make sure you're smashing that like button if you're watching us on YouTube. You got any questions, get them in the YouTube chat, get them in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat. Season-long question, Fantasy League Final. You want the Bucks D or the Cowboys D?
I'd probably take the Bucks D.
Yeah, same boat for me as well. It's me Breezy wants to know how much Ridley I'm playing with so much Spears. I have about 15% Ridley. I think I have him in 3 of 20 lineups. I got him in my 2 Mason Rudolphs teams, and then I also have him in my Mac Jones team, and that's about it for how much I'm getting to him. Another season long, Tyrone Tracy or Josh Downs?
Josh Downs.
Yeah, Downs for me there as well. We're locked in on almost everything today except for Tajay Spears. We feel differently about Spears. Everything else we are pretty locked in. Who do you like better, Neighbors or Garrett Wilson?
They're pretty. I'd go Neighbors, but I do like Garrett Wilson.
Zevon wants to know who is your favorite QB. I think for both of us, it's Josh Allen, and we both also really like Jordan Love. Spears or Ridley, straight up in the flex.
Oh, it's gonna be Ridley for me.
Yeah, and it's Spears for me, but I think they kind of like.
If they play a ton of man, if Ridley catches a bomb, it takes away from Spears' ceiling. If you're playing a larger field tournament, it's probably Ridley. If you're playing smaller field, probably Spears.
I think the proper answer is essentially just whichever. Like, it depends on the rest of your lineup, right? Like, if you're playing a chalky lineup, play Calvin Ridley. If you're playing Bucky Irving, Saquon Barkley, Brian Thomas Jr., and Devontavian Wicks, you're probably better off with Ridley than Tajay Spears because it's a way to get different. If you're playing a super off-the-wall stack that nobody else is, play Tajay Spears because he is the more likely to get there. But like Bobby said, Calvin Ridley is that big ceiling with the 50-yard bomb potential. Plus, he also has He provides a little bit of leverage off of Tajay Spears. A couple more questions, then we'll get the GPP Final Takes crew in here because they are here in the lobby. TJ, how much downs are you playing? I'm playing about 30% downs. I'll be very similar to the field. Jefferson, Aaron Jones, and Ferguson, or Barkley, Downs, and Hawkinson for DK Cash. I would go Barkley, Downs, and Hawkinson for a cash one. Season-long championship. I have Jacoby Myers, George Kittle, and Debo. I can only use 2. Probably leaving off Debo there. TJ Ridley or Downs or Thielen, 6,300 left on FanDuel. Probably go. Who do you like best in that scenario? Ridley, Downs, or Thielen?
Downs.
Probably Downs, unless I'm not playing Spears, then I would go Ridley. It is time for GPP Final Takes. An hour and a half of content is done, and we still have 2 more hours leading you right up until lock. Now it is time for Erik, for Neil, coming in now. How you doing this morning, gentlemen? Erik, Neil, how are things?
Wonderful. Didn't have T. Higgins on any, best ball finals teams or fantasy championship teams. So we're fully locked into the DFS slate. Nothing else to worry about. No, don't have any T. Higgins, so no sweats elsewhere in DFS. But a $2 million prize up top on old DraftKings today. So I'm excited.
What if I told you that I had 3 teams last week with T. Higgins that all finished second place? I had 2 teams over 200 points that finished second place last week. I was so rattled.
I had 100% T. Higgins yesterday in my second to last run, and then I got down to like 50%. With the Gibson news, I don't even understand like what happened.
It ruined absolutely everything for me. The Gibson thing. I kind of liked him like a little bit anyway yesterday, and then you get that starting, and he was like 3%, dude. In like a lot of these, I was like, I felt like a genius. This was the greatest DFS play ever. Like this felt like 10 years ago DFS, where we can actually get late news and get an edge with it. And he just doesn't pull. He scored all his points on the final.
He almost broke one late. He almost broke one, and I ended up with like 80%. My team.
The funny thing is too is like he ended up being, after all the nonsense, he ended up being like the full workhorse back after Ramondre Stevenson started the game. They're like, Gibson's going to start. And then Ramondre Stevenson started, and then Gibson just played the rest of the game.
Yeah, but he didn't do anything until like the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter.
He had like 50 yards on the last drive.
Yeah.
I stand by the play. Playing Antonio Gibson, I think, was very sharp yesterday. Did not work out. I've seen people like somebody that I know on Twitter was saying like, oh, well, we have a sample size of this happening before where they said Gibson was going to get the start and he only got the first carry, so I didn't play it. And I'm like, okay, that's a 1-game set. Like I bet against the coach lying to us on game day, but turns out that was the.
If I didn't switch, I would have had a ton of Stevenson, and I just
not any better. I mean, worse.
Yeah.
Did you see the Mayo interview afterwards? They specifically asked him like what happened, what changed, because this wasn't like Friday reporting or Thursday report. Right. This was an hour before the game. No, Ramondre's bench, we're starting Antonio Gibson, and then naturally it doesn't happen.
And apparently he sat down with like the play-by-play and color announcers the day before and were like told them that Gibson was going to be the starter.
He wouldn't answer. He just kept saying it was a coach's decision. It was a coach's decision.
Oh, that's so annoying. That's so annoying.
And
he went the Belichick route after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He deserves to lose his job. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's terrible.
He's terrible. And there's options out there, and they have a lot of cap money. So.
And a lot of people are going to want that. Like, if you're a coach coming in and you got Drake May already in the holster, like, yeah, wheels up, dude.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Good luck today.
Good luck. I'm still here if you need me, but it's all you guys here now. We did promise the people our slate breaking plays. Who's going to be shutting down the slate today? And so, Bobby, who you got? Who's breaking the slate?
I'm going to go Jaden Reed.
Jaden Reed, I like it. I am going to go with, it's chalky, and I apologize for the chalk, but I feel it in my heart. I feel it in my soul. Bucky Irving is going to have 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. Erik, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, definitely cannot push back on either of those. I think I have both of them tagged in in lineup HQ. So a fitting segue into GPP Final Takes. We're almost to the end of the season, Neil, but this week is a big one. Of course, people are in their fantasy championships. Maybe you made the best ball finals, and there's some huge contests out there in the DFS street. So there's a lot of money to be made today. If you've not joined us before for the show, welcome. I don't know what made you come in week 17, but we're happy to have you. And I think you'll see pretty quickly, this is not like a little bit of a unique style show. We're going to kind of bounce around. We're not necessarily going to go game by game. We're not necessarily going to go position by position. Today, especially, there's only 8 games, and there's really not many guys I care to talk about in today's games. So if you guys have questions in the chat, I see some of them. I'm going to assume that anything that was posted before we started has already been answered. If you would like a question answered by Neil or myself, please post it in the chat. I'll try to hit as many as we can. FanDuel, DraftKings, what have you. Tournaments is a little bit more of our focus, as you would expect with GPP Final Takes. But if you really have a pressing cash question, feel free to post it. We will hit all of it. We always try to start, as Neil knows, 17 weeks in, with what's the theme of the slate, right? What's the one thing when we open up the slate? What are we having to decide about? And for me, it's not really any one individual player. I know we'll talk about TJ Spears and we'll talk about these guys. It's the fact that there's only 8 games. There's a bunch of bad weather or possible bad weather. And there's just not really naturally with 8 games, right? We got backup quarterbacks everywhere, like Joe Flacco did, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, probably Tyler Huntley, Drew Lock is playing, Spencer Rattler's, Mac Jones versus Mason Rudolph. There's more backup quarterbacks playing on the slate than there are starting quarterbacks. I mean, Kenny Pickett, Cooper Rush, right? It's all kind of gross, and there's not very many games. So when you have a slate like this, how do you kind of approach that? Because I actually had somebody message me this morning. Do I just play the best plays, right? The fun joke. Do I just play the best plays and kind of let everybody else screw something up? And I understand that premise, but also you're going to be holding hands with a lot of people on this slate if you just play all the same plays that everybody else likes. So how do you kind of approach this weird slate like this?
I think it's a great slate for over game stacking, particularly with the weather included there, with only 2 games with big totals. It would be pretty easy for one game. If one game puts up 60, 70 points, that could really separate from the field in terms of pace of play and scoring and all that. So I think it's a really, really strong slate for just, if you play 5 teams, play 5 different game stacks, play 5 or 6 players from that game. Maybe I'll have some with 7. I don't know, but there are a few games that could go off. It's none of them are guaranteed to go off, but I think it's a really good slate for just betting on one of these games separating from a scoring and pace perspective.
I love that. If you want Dean or TJ, TJ is behind the scenes. I'm sure he can hop in the chat and answer your questions. I do want to hit this actually and to ask kind of right off the top, probably a good thing to just get out of the way. He says, please at some point discuss the motivation of these teams. I don't have every single minute detail mapped out, but what I will tell you is, I'm actually going to start from the back end in terms of teams where things matter. The Colts are every playoff odds are a little bit different, right? Exactly. But this is going to be close enough. The Colts have about a 7% chance to make the playoffs. And the Dolphins are similar, worse odds, especially with the Bengals win yesterday. What a ridiculous, that game was absolutely ridiculous. But that really hurt Miami and Indianapolis. So the Colts are about 7%. The Dolphins are about 5%, but they are not technically eliminated. So even though it does seem like the Dolphins are shutting it down, they do have something to play for. The Colts definitely, right, are going to be going for the win here against the Giants. So don't have concerns about JT, all that kind of stuff. The Bucks, the next team up here that's on this slate, there's somewhere around a coin flip, 50-50, them in Atlanta, particularly with the Rams essentially locking up the play. I believe at some point today. I don't know all the tiebreakers, right? I don't know when they get to flip a coin or see who can hold your breath longer in the tiebreaker list, but there's some long tiebreaker list for the Rams, and they got to check some of them today. But they're basically in, which means the Bucks and the Falcons are essentially fighting for one playoff spot. So the Bucks against the Panthers today, no concerns about motivation there. The Bills cannot get the bye, right? So I'm not concerned about their motivation necessarily, but they're not the most motivated team is I guess what I would say. I fully expect they're going to go out and try to win this game and play normal. The Vikings and Packers are both locked into a playoff spot, but the Vikings can get the number 1 overall seed. The Vikings really want to win today. Both teams are going to want to win that game. I think that's about it. Am I missing anything from a motivational standpoint on this one? I don't think so.
No, I think you did better than I could. So yeah, well, I think that's pretty good synopsis.
Yeah. So there's that pretty much everybody, honestly, is motivated. The teams that you would expect to be motivated are motivated to win. The teams that are starting Cooper Rush and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, yeah, not so motivated to win. You mentioned kind of overstacking, though. I totally agree. I love these slates for that. Like, just give me the one game that scores 70 points, and I don't really care. That's the only thing I had to get right. If you had to pick one of those, though, like first lineup, maybe I'm leading the witness because this is how I'm playing today. This is I want Neil's one game stack in my one lineup today. But where are you starting? Which game's your favorite?
Yeah, so I'm reviewing the weather right now, which is like sort of changing things for me a little bit. Like I was thinking, like obviously Tampa, Carolina feels like the best game stack, but pretty bad weather there. So I'm a little bit concerned about that one. I think I'm moving more toward, and I've been sort of inclined to do this one anyway, but Flacco, Downs. I guess from a game stacking perspective, it's a little bit tough though. With the Giants, don't really have many players that I really want to play. So let me take that back. I also was about to say Tennessee, Jacksonville looked like it could be a really good game stack, and now that one, the weather is sort of ruining
Florida.
things.
Goddamn Florida, man.
Yeah, so it's so it is a little bit tougher now that I'm looking closer at some of the weather stuff. Yeah, probably just the one right here, Green Bay, Minnesota, I think is no weather concerns, 2 of the better offenses, not the best matchups for either team. Like, so don't love that both teams are playing against pretty good defenses, but I think offenses could win out here. I think with Christian Watson unlikely to play, you get some value on Green Bay. It's clearly the easiest. So yeah, I think probably the Vikings Packers game is where I would land with weather factored in.
I think so too. That game is an interesting barometer for the slate. So maybe we'll talk about that one just a little bit, because for months, nobody's really cared to play Justin Jefferson. Nobody's really cared to play Jordan Addison. Nobody's really cared to play Jaden Reed. Are you kidding me? I've tagged Jaden Reed multiple times, and look, this is a L where we got to take an L. I've tagged Jaden Reed several times. He does nothing, right? Every single week. Now, again, Bobby likes him. I think I tagged him. I think a bunch of people, we all see this is a much different spot for Jaden Reed, right? Of course, Christian Watson is out, but the matchup is much better, both from a game environment and schematic perspective. But like, it's interesting because we'd never really wanted to play any of these guys, no matter, right? They're playing the New Orleans Saints, who have rolled over and died with a 30-point team total, and nobody cared, right? We don't really care about them. Josh Jacobs like kind of got there, and that was about it. I agree that game is one of the most fun on the slate, but it does feel to me like more of a I don't even know what the analogy to make, but like, it's just like a process of elimination type thing where we're like, well, this game has bad weather. This game has bad weather. I know the defense is bad in this one, but I don't like to click these crappy backup quarterbacks. So we just go to this other game where like, I know they're both good on offense. I know they're both motivated, and like, let's just go to that one. I think that's fine. I like it too, but it does it does just always kind of like sit in my brain. Like, if this was in week 10, would we care? Like, would this game be really popular? I don't think so.
Probably not. It's a dome game. It is 2 strong offenses. Like, I don't think it would be. I think I agree with you that like it would not be popular if it were a larger slate with better games. Yeah, as popular. But I think there would be some interest in a dome game between division rivals with pretty high total. So, but yeah, like if we had better games on the slate, it doesn't stand out because, or it does stand out on this slate because the slate is so bad. So it's just, I think the likeliest to go off. Erik, I haven't had the opportunity yet to rant at all.
Oh, please.
The only person I've been able to talk to at all is my wife. So just let me say, I have one of my 2 best ball final teams. One of them has Lad McConkey, Marvin Mims, Trey McBride. Just like it has Bucky Irving and Saquon Barkley waiting. It is so good. And I feel like it has zero chance because of that third touchdown from Joe Burrow to T. Higgins. Put me in like that stack. So, my only quarterbacks were Justin Herbert and Bo Nix. I had Trevor Lawrence got hurt. So I'm like, from quarterback perspective, I'm playing from 12 points behind and then losing out on T. Higgins. Like, it just feels like I have zero chance. I was so angry seeing that third, just like anything but another T. Higgins touchdown here in overtime. The way they got there with the doink, the rushing touchdown for some reason for Burrow, the whole thing. So just had to get my rant out of there.
If you had those guys, that's what you play for. If you have
you
that
love
run
that.
out, you're just like, you can't make this up. Like, you couldn't write that script Hollywood couldn't write that the way that game played out. If you don't have them, that's why you get so angry. I spent all of this time, and like you said, missed field goal. The thing that was crazy to me in that run out that I think goes a little overlooked, this was the thing that was triggering me the most as a person who had Chase Brown on a pretty good finals team. On that final drive, right, the announcer is losing his mind about the time, and I was just like, can you just stop? Like, please. I'm so sick of doing we have to run every single second down and then kick a field goal. It's like, well, do we like that score a touchdown? And I know it didn't work in this scenario, so that guy probably felt very vindicated. It's like when you talk shit about analytics and then they don't get the fourth down conversions. That's what that guy felt
exactly.
Like. But so Chase Brown gets hurt on that, doesn't score, and gets hurt. So the Broncos don't have to use their timeout. The Bengals use their timeout and then come out and score immediately and leave all this time left on the clock. Like, if Chase Brown just doesn't get hurt, not even doesn't get in, just doesn't get hurt, it's over. No overtime. Not like it's Chase Brown getting hurt on that goal line carry. Naturally, it sucks because if you had Chase Brown, you lost out on potential overtime. But like the whole game, like that took Joe Burrow scores 10 more points. T. Higgins scores 12 more points on DraftKings. Like, crazy outcome. So tying it into today's show, a fitting rant. Why is Neil interested, and why are we interested in like I'm loading up on I'm going to do $4 on my main stack, is because you want that today. If you get that on your one, if you got that in best ball when everybody got to play all 16 games, you're still smashing. Imagine that on an 8-game slate where half of them have bad weather, half of them have to Mac Jones against Mason Rudolph. Like, if you get the one game that goes nuts, like, that's it. It's over. You win today. So crazy. Yeah, I drafted a bunch of Bengals, and similar to TJ, I had some Bengals teams that got knocked out last week. Chase Brown was my only exposure. Perfect. Thank you for pulling up the weather. And I was like, this sucks. T's doing well, and he's very popular in most of the finals, but I'm like, it's not over. You're like, just end the game and we can survive and you make some money, and then overtime. I'm like, oh, okay, let's turn this off. Let's turn this off.
So bad.
All right. I see all you guys' questions and comments. We'll hit those. I just wanted to hit the weather as well. So we did the motivation. I want to do the weather. We actually have a little more time on this one because there's 8 games and it's not good. Most of them are not good. If you want to hear me talk about Ryan Flanoy and Bucks backup wide receivers for an hour, we can do that, but I figure we can cover some more relevant stuff. So as Neil mentioned, the Florida games, Jacksonville and Tampa, both have some pretty real concerns of rain, like heavy rain, a little bit of wind, but largely heavy rain. In the Bucks game, I was reading before this, shouts to Kevin Roth, best weatherman in all of the business, is actually there's going to be some lightning, specifically on the Tampa side of things, which sounds weird, but is probably good. I feel a little bit more intrigued by still sticking with the Bucks Panthers stuff, because sure, it's probably going to rain. You see, he has it orange yellow, so it's a little bit not as bad as over in Jacksonville. And it's possible we get like thunder and lightning there, which would pause the game and they would have to wait, and we could maybe end up playing a clean game if that happens. I know that's a very specific outcome, but I think it's important because most of the games on the slate today have bad weather. So we need to figure those out. Buffalo also rain. Definitely. I don't know if anybody's in Buffalo in the chat. I guess it's raining right now, and the winds are going to apparently get stronger. With some gusts up to 30 miles an hour. So not awesome in that one either. And then Philly with Dallas coming to town, not bad, mostly dry. He expects a little bit of rain, or excuse me, a little bit of wind. which I guess Kenny Pickett's got some pretty small hands, and so does Cooper Rush. So maybe that is a little more concern. Yellow is more like orange for a Kenny Pickett, Cooper Rush game. But then Miami at Cleveland is pretty bad too. But wind is the big issue in Miami and Cleveland. Also seems pretty bad for Dorian Thompson-Robinson versus Tyler Huntley in that game. So yeah, shout out Herbert Good in the chat, says it's raining like crazy here in Buffalo. Roth does think it's gonna like clear out kind of early with the rain, so I'm not too concerned for the likes of Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson, but it's a knock, right? It's definitely a knock on those guys. All right, that's the weather. Thank you, TJ. That is the weather. We can go ahead and hit a couple questions, and then we'll dive into some more of these games. Oh, good God. First question, Auburn all day. I assume this is Rachaad White, and I assume this is a fantasy championship, not the best ball, but Rachaad White or Amir Abdullah. Do you have any interest in it doesn't have to be Amir Abdullah, but is Rachaad White in play at all for you with Bucky? I think we're both going to like Bucky, I imagine. Yeah. And Alexander Madison did return and kind of take over that spot. Do you have any interest in those two backfields? How are you thinking about them?
Yes, for DFS, I have some interest in Rachaad White because he's going to be such great leverage, so low owned. He's risky as hell though. Like I like him for large field tournaments for the reason I just mentioned. And like there is a tail, like high upside there if he just does get the like even split or something were to happen to Bucky. Obviously, great matchup. Bad weather probably means more running. But the coaches hate him right now. So it's like the floor is very, very low for Rachaad White. So I think he's a strong play for like really large field tournaments as a like leverage play with clear upside. But also for season long, I hate both of those options. And I'm playing some equally bad options at my team's actually really thin at wide receiver, which is funny because I was 0 RB. But my wide receivers really hurt. Whereas I'm strong at running back. So I get it. You're making some bad decisions here in championship week with lots of injuries. But I hate both of those options. I would probably go with Rachaad White of those two, but yes. Man,
I would play Rachaad White there just because he's going to play in some form or fashion. He does have touchdown upside. As much as we love Bucky, we're going to talk about Bucky. Trust me. But like Rachaad White does catch some passes, has at least 2 catches in the last 3 weeks, caught 7 last week. Granted, they lost to the freaking Cowboys, but the Panthers aren't like, what's the difference? Why can't they fall behind to the like Bryce Young just beat Bryce Young and the Panthers now they had Chuba, but knocked out the Cardinals from the playoffs, right? Scored almost 40 points. I don't see why we can't get that's another reason why that game is just like super punchy. Like I'm pretty excited about that game. And so just give me the guy in that game. Don't give me the guy in Spencer Rattler, Aiden O'Connell,
yeah.
Aiden O'Connell game he can score a touchdown. What was the other? The Buffalo guys are saying, yeah, it's crazy rain right now. He's 2 miles from the stadium, and it's pretty gnarly weather. Rob says raining good in Old Buffalo, probably no deep passes. So just something to keep in mind. We got some boots on the ground. Shout out to the Bills Mafia out there in Buffalo. A couple more questions. Dave says Darnold, Brian Thomas Jr., and Tucker Kraft, okay, or the opposite side with Jordan Love, Jaden Reed, and TJ Hawkinson. So going up to Hawkinson and then coming down a little bit from Darnold and BTJ. What do you think about that little 3v3?
I mean, the second one has a stack. So the first one, like I assume you're stacking elsewhere.
Or maybe JJ's like on both of them or something. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Like if it were just like without knowing the rest of the
Darnold,
team.
Yeah, I don't want Darnold without JJ or Addison or Hawkins. I want to have him stacked with somebody.
Right. So I'm more inclined to just say the second one, but I think it's because I see the stack there. When I think about like the actual players, like assuming that you're going to stack elsewhere, it is much closer for me. Still probably the latter for a large field GPP, probably the latter, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's the latter as well. I do have, let's talk about that game just super quick, because the most fascinating part of this game is like you could play it from a million angles. I know like we probably all like Justin Jefferson. I know we like Jaden Reed or whatever, but both tight ends are in play. There's 5 wide receivers that you can play in this game. Nobody wants the running backs. neither do I. But nobody wants the running backs in this game, and both quarterbacks are similarly priced and project similarly. So there are a lot of ways we can go about this game, which is kind of the thing that keeps drawing me back in a little bit, where I'm a little concerned that it's maybe a little more popular than it should be. However, there's a lot of ways to attack it. How are you kind of prioritizing that? Are you playing more Darnold, more Love, right? And then how are you kind of playing those wide receivers and pass catchers?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I've been planning on playing more Darnold, but Love is coming in lower owned. Obviously doesn't project nearly as well as Darnold, and his the receiving options for Green Bay now become more interesting with Christian Watson out. So that is sort of a tough one. I mean, the real answer is I am approaching it from all angles. I'm playing everybody in this game. I think Josh Jacobs, looks the volume is just awesome for Josh Jacobs. Aaron Jones, pretty inexpensive. I love all the pass catchers. I think I'll probably have more of the Viking stack, like Darnold. I'll have more Darnold than Love, but I'll probably have more than the field of what Love is being projected for and around the field on Darnold, I think. So I don't have a great answer. I think if I were just making one lineup from this game, honestly, it might be a Packers stack, just for the little bit of savings. You can throw in Love double stacked with like Wicks and Kraft or Wicks and Reed. I think there's just so many fun stacking options on the Packers. And then you can just bring it back with a Jefferson or a Hawkinson or multiple Jefferson, Hawkinson, Addison, whatever. But just for the price savings, I think I'd be more inclined to start with that price savings and ownership savings. It is coming in lower owned. I think I'd rather go to the Packer side if I were just making one lineup for a large field GPP. But like I said, I'm going to be attacking it from all angles. I think it looks great. How about you?
I tagged the Packers guys. I keep going back and forth. I'll be honest with you, I still really haven't decided. So I got I got an hour and a half to figure this one out. I think it's the real answer is that it's all good. Like, however, which way you want to play it. One thing I do like about it that, again, I keep kind of coming back to, there's only 2 afternoon games today, and this is one of them. So if you play something, you kind of have to play something, unless you really love the Dolphins Browns more than I do. You have to play something in the early games. You can, if you do want to stack this game, you can get a barometer for where you're right. If you play, we'll get to all the running backs, but you play Bucky and Tyjae, going to be pretty popular. One of them fails, right? Tyjae scores 8 points or whatever. You're pretty cooked at running back, and you played into the chalk. So now it's time to, okay, maybe I got to play Dobbs on this team, or, Addison has to be in this team, or whichever lower owned guys. And it needs to be Love, not Darnold, right? Maybe I'm playing Aaron Jones now because I'm not playing Darnold. I'm going to play the run game side of this thing. The swap options are pretty good in this one. And I hate to make that like kind of the answer. My favorite is kind of straightforward. I like Tucker Kraft more than TJ Hawkinson. Jaden Reed is my favorite Packers wide receiver. And if I'm stacking Darnold, my favorite thing to do is Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, because they are awesome and they get all the targets. It's like, that's how I would play it if I was playing one team, probably. And I might play that. But I would just be tracking these first 6 games and seeing, how you don't have Jonathan Taylor and he does the same shit he did last week, buddy. Better get a little funky with your stack, because it ain't going to be, you're not going to win with whatever points you got when JT goes for 40 something. So something to keep in mind on that one. Are you playing how much, and/or are you playing the running backs much? That's the trickier part for me, is Jacobs and Aaron Jones.
It is tough because there are some really strong running back options on this slate. But Aaron Jones only 6,200. I think you have to play some Aaron Jones. He's going to get some ownership because of that price tag. But yeah, definitely going to play some Jones. And then Josh Jacobs, he was going to put up 40 fantasy points last week if they let him keep going. I think in a must-win game, they're just going to lean pretty hard into Jacobs. So yeah, I think he's pretty strong play at relatively low ownership. Also, we have met 17%, I guess. So not like
I'd be surprised if it's that high.
I would be. I've seen lower elsewhere. At 17%, I'd be like, less enthusiastic about it, but probably I'd still have some. Like I want to have at least 10% Jacobs, I think. But 17% is probably more than I'll have.
10% feels efficient. Like if I'm just ballparking
Yeah.
an efficient number, I feel like 10%. Like the other running backs are really, really good. The matchup's not awesome for Josh Jacobs. He's not the most efficient player. The most Josh Jacobs shit ever is always the 18 for 65 and 3 touchdowns. You're just like, if you don't have him, you're like, this dude never gains any yards ever, but he catches 4 balls and he scores 2 or 3 touchdowns. And that might be all we need on this slate, but there are some other good running backs. Let's talk about some of those.
Wait. Before we say anything, I just want to read off this note from Ian Rappaport. It says, Garrett Wilson could request trade if Aaron Rodgers is Jets quarterback in 2025. That relationship I didn't realize it was that bad. Like
I think I should remove my Garrett Wilson tag.
Right? That is not great.
We're going to move the tag over to Devontae real quick, away from Garrett Wilson. I think we have discovered some of the issues going on, as if we hadn't already discovered Jets issues. Good God. The first time I read it from the Underdog account, Garrett Wilson could request trade. I'm like, okay, that's really not that surprising. And I stopped. Right. And it's like, oh, go. Okay, whatever. And then like you said, you double back and you're like, oh, if Aaron Rodgers is the Jets quarterback, like he will not ever play another snap with Aaron Rodgers, and he's going to play with him today. Like they have to play together today. Oh man, that's gross. Does that genuinely make you like Devontae anymore? Because I do kind of feel like it makes me like Devontae a little. Aaron Rodgers, dude, this is the most spiteful, like, YOLO dude. It's like the season's over. He needs to throw one more touchdown, right, to get to 500. The narrative is already out there about Devontae wants to catch his 500th touchdown. Like that matters at all, but it matters to those two bros. Yeah. Like they love each other, man. And they like it. So I don't know. I think Devontae is a pretty good play. And now it's certainly narrative based, but I don't think it's crazy to like him a little bit more.
I don't think it is either. The downside is it's so windy there, like gusts up to 30 miles per hour. Like it's not a great game environment for passing with the wind and the rain. But yeah, I think it's certainly like could just see 15 short targets to Devontae. So definitely playable anyway.
He's going to catch 10 passes. It's just, it's been a lot of 3-yarders all season already. And now we have the win, but he's gonna try to throw Devontae. If they get to the 1, he's throwing the fade. Okay, yeah. Just like so. Sorry if you have Breece or something like. I'm not playing Breece Hall today. Let's get that one out of the way because, like I said, if they get to the goal line, Rodgers is taking it. He's in that mode, and Devontae supports him in it, and Garrett doesn't. So, Brad says this is a good call. I like this. Play the BFF narrative. Rodgers, exactly. When people have spoke about the Rodgers double for weeks, right? It's always Devontae and Garrett Wilson because they get all the targets. Now we have to take Garrett. Garrett's not a part of that. It's Devontae, but if you want to play the double, you got to play Allen Lazard because if he's not going to throw it to Garrett Wilson, he's going to throw it to his other butt buddy, Allen Lazard. So what a ridiculous. You just add another crazy wrinkle to this slate. I don't really think it matters that much, but I did kind of like Devontae. And I mean, Garrett Wilson's 6,100 on DraftKings. That's crazy. And so, yeah, I'm going to remove my tag. I don't want that out there in the world that I tagged him. Running backs. We're going to talk about some running backs. Let's start at the top. Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor as the two like elite spend ups in great spots. Jonathan Taylor, of course, now gets Joe Flacco. So maybe like a small dent to his rushing efficiency, but should actually catch some passes. Now they're going to throw more. And of course, Flacco will check it down a little bit more and doesn't have the threat of Anthony Richardson at the goal line. Saquon Barkley in a very similar situation, loses Jalen Hurts. So maybe some more pass catching, no tush push at the goal line, but the offense gets a pretty big downgrade with Kenny Pickett as opposed to Jalen Hurts. What do you think about those two as your spend ups? Who do you like better? And just like how much of those guys are you into?
Yeah, I mean, both look very good if you're spending up at running back. Preference between the two of them, I don't know, maybe Jonathan Taylor for the lower ownership. Looks like around the industry we have him at lower ownership at RotoGrinders. Other places do as well. It's pretty close. I mean, Saquon, Honestly, so as a newly minted Saquon bro, because he is on my best ball team suddenly, I wish that Jalen Hurts was in the game. Like I wish we knew that the offense was going to move. Just give me what he's been doing all year. Don't remove any factor from that, because he's been so good all year. So I don't love it that Jalen Hurts is out. Could mean even more volume, could mean more passing volume, take away the tush push. But like you said, just like the offense getting worse, I don't love that for Saquon Barkley. So I think ultimately Jonathan Taylor, because I'm not convinced the offense actually gets worse. He's more likely to, get the goal line carries without Anthony Richardson, all that. So I think JT over Saquon for me at the discounted price and ownership. It's pretty close though. How about you?
That's how I feel too. I'm a Jonathan Taylor slappy. Okay, which sounds stupid because I'm not really a Saquon guy. I should get it out. Saquon is awesome at football, like absolutely awesome at football. The NFL street jumping spin move, hurdle between the legs was like the sickest thing I've ever seen someone do on a football field. Saquon is incredible, but I think Jonathan Taylor is in that tier of running back. Like everybody just talks about Derrick Henry and McCaffrey when he's healthy, and Saquon. I'm like, JT is like he just happens to play for the Colts, so nobody cares. JT is that, and you saw last week, dude. He'll put the whole team on his back.
Yeah.
And they are playing a team that has rolled over and died in the New York Giants. The Giants don't want to win. They're starting Drew Lock over Tommy DeVito, which sounds like it shouldn't be anything, because Tommy DeVito is better than Drew Lock. They don't want to have a chance to win. It's bad. Malik Neighbors is like trying to play, I guess, today, right? Like Dayball's probably the Walking Dead. Like JT could just do it again, and they're trying to win. I know they have a very minimal chance at the playoffs, but they're going to try to win today. And without Richardson, like I don't think it's like old school Flacco early in the season where we're like wheels up, we're going to get 45 pass attempts. I think it's he's going to throw more, but I think this game's on JT, so I like JT a little bit more than Saquon, but I do like them both, and I'm a little bit intrigued by like leveraging off of a Tajay or a Bucky or someone like that, and then jamming the other, the other good running backs that we like. Or Jacobs fits, right? Jacobs and Aaron Jones fit in that equation as well. As we move down the running back list a little bit. Okay, first, hold on. I want to hit a couple of the comments. Donnie says that the Jets ownership is going to send Rodgers and Wilson on an ayahuasca retreat in the offseason to try to become buddies. That's definitely true. Mambo's plugging in his the BFF narrative, the Devontae Lazard double into the model to try to win the Millie and won 500K with Lazard earlier this season. So I'm pretty sure that means you got to run it back today. For sure. Mamba does. What do you think about this? Mamba says the problem with Green Bay is they don't have a number one wide receiver. It's an offense of equal distribution. That is largely true, but we do most likely remove Christian Watson today. But how are you just like thinking about those? Because it's a very real thing, right? Like who do I pick amongst these four guys?
I mean, I think, and the conversation continued, and he agreed with the conversation that, I mean, removing Christian Watson is pretty impactful from that perspective. And that's by design. Like all offseason, LaFleur was like, I want to throw up when I hear the term wide receiver one. Like he just like doesn't want
That's a real quote.
Yeah, it's a real
wasn't
quote.
Hyperbole.
Yeah, he actually said that. So, and it's been true. Like, and we kind of was like, is that really true? Like Jaden Reed early in the year is like, well, he's clearly separating. This is a young star. He's the best receiver. And it's just been like, no, we don't want anybody to be that good. So, yeah, I don't know what the deal is there, but yeah, it makes me like them better knowing that they aren't going to be throwing it to 4 receivers. They're going to be condensing it down to 3 receivers and a tight end. I mean, that's like every team to some extent. Like some teams, it's like way more concentrated to the top dog, but yeah, it makes me like him better with Dontavian Wicks. Like he's again, and this is how we drafted him. Like, okay, he's the wide receiver 3 now, but like he could easily be the wide receiver 1. He could easily score the most, and he's the cheapest. So yeah, I like that they they removed the one obstacle that Green Bay has. It's like, okay, they're gonna. I guess the other obstacle is they've been throwing at like the second worst rate from neutral game script situations. They've been throwing, I think, like the second lowest percentage in the league. So they just want to run. So there is that kind of playing against the Packers too. But I like removing Christian Watson. It becomes more condensed. How do you choose? I think probably just what fits your lineup. Jaden Reed is like, he's cheap because he's a pay up option relative to like Wicks. Romeo Dobbs doesn't feel like he has the same upside as the other two, but maybe he doesn't have the same splash play upside, but he does still have the ability to have, he's maybe more likely to have 8 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. So I think
he's probably most likely to catch 2 touchdowns, maybe even. Well, it's probably recency bias by me. He just did it a couple of weeks ago, but he's going to play the most snaps. If you want the guy to play that's playing the most snaps amongst the wide receivers, it's the least exciting guy. It's the oatmeal of the group, Romeo Dobbs. But I kind of like him for tournaments. Just like
I do too.
If we're going to play into this situation, because I agree with absolutely everything that you just said. Now we have we've removed some of the issues. I also think, it's not impossible that they come out and still just run the ball every play against Minnesota, but I like playing Spencer Rattler and the Saints and playing like some of the worst teams in the NFL is a very different game plan than for playing your divisional rival, biggest game of the season, right? Like this is huge. This is a huge game for both teams, and they know they need to score, right? When you go play Spencer Rattler, you're just like, just get this shit over with. Like, we are gonna win. So like, who could just give it to Josh? We'll get up by a couple scores at halftime and who cares? But against Darnold and JJ and KOC and all that, you can't do that. So they threw almost 60 times. Now they were losing, but they threw almost 60 times in the first meeting between these two teams. I don't think that's the game plan. I'm not expecting 60 passes, but I think you'll see that if things don't go their way in this game, they're not just going to keep running Josh Jacobs. They'll throw the ball. So I like the pass catchers. Some more. What do you think about this? We talked about Saquon. We'll get down to Donnie. I see your question on TJ and Bucky, and we'll get to some of these other running backs as well. But if we're not playing Saquon, the Eagles are still playing the Cowboys. I know it's Kenny Pickett. The chat loves them some AJ Brown this week, and I think that makes a ton of sense. Targeted on, if I'm remembering correctly, 60% of Kenny Pickett's dropbacks were AJ Brown, or AJ Brown just all of a sudden 15 targets last week, I believe it was. Just that's what they did, right? Saquon wasn't working. Saquon got like 2 yards per carry in the second half after the insane first quarter. When Pickett was in there, it really hurt Saquon. It really helped AJ Brown. Are you buying that? Are you playing some of that? And are you playing any Pickett with him, or is it just AJ Brown?
I don't think I'm playing any Pickett. I'll have some AJ Brown. I'm maybe less enthusiastic than chat is about AJ Brown. I think you're right. Like 60%. And I think, as I recall, that was if you remove pass interference calls, where I think he would have been even higher with those.
That's crazy.
So yeah, in that first game, they targeted AJ Brown quite a bit. I think he looks fine. Just he is pretty expensive, and there are other receivers around that price range that I like a little bit better. So I'll probably be the field we're projecting for 11% AJ Brown. That feels about right to me. That's probably about where I end up on AJ Brown. I think he's a fairly strong option. I just, given the other options around there are some others that I prefer. So I think I end up probably around the field. I guess again, I'm forgetting about the weather a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm like, well, I really want to play Mike Evans if I'm playing in that price range. And I guess with the potential lightning delay, maybe that one won't be as big of an issue. So maybe I still can do that. But I think that's the biggest thing holding me back from AJ Brown is that I really love Mike Evans this week. I think I'm going to play a ton of Mike Evans. So that is keeping me away somewhat, but I think around 11% feels about right for AJ Brown. Maybe a little bit higher just because of the weather being like not a huge issue there, like mostly dry. There are some winds, but like up to 15 miles per hour looks like. Oh, I guess there's some gusts there. No, I'm coming back around to it. I'm just matching the field. I'm not taking a stand on AJ Brown.
You just epitomized this slate where that's what we all do. We like
around in a circle, like, yeah, I can see it, but then no.
You pick up the phone and you start hand building, right? Whatever, you're laying on the couch or you're laying in bed or you're using the restroom and you're like, all right, let's start to put together a team. Okay, check Roth's weather report. Oh crap, that looks bad, right? Go to this one. Then you like come all the way back full circle to this other thing that like was your fourth choice because you make your way down this list. Yeah, Carlos says galaxy braining. I think it's something that's important today though. We want to make sure we're not completely like fading the best spots because the weather like could be bad. I'm still pretty into Tampa. How would you rank 4 tournaments? Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Mike Evans. Obviously, weather and all this stuff included, stack and all, right, however you want to do it. But I think those 3, if people are spending up at wide receiver, are the priority targets. How are you ranking those guys?
I'd have Evans number 1. Just a really nice matchup. And this is another where I'm buying into the narrative, falling for it. Baker saying like I care more about the 1,000-yard streak than Mike Evans does. To me, is kind of like okay, let's if the quarterback really wants to get his receiver 182 passing yards in the next 2 games, really easy to do so against Carolina. So like this is the spot to do so. I kind of assumed he's just going to feed Mike Evans today. So Mike Evans would be number 1 for me. Probably still J Jet's number 2. Like J Jet's getting more ownership is part of the reason that I like Evans better than J Jet's. He is like this is the chalkiest we've seen Justin Jefferson on a slate all season, I think. But I think I still like him slightly more than AJ Brown. It's close between those 2 given the ownership discrepancy. But probably J Jets for me. How about you?
That's how I feel. Mike Evans is number 1. I think I'll keep Jefferson at 2. But with the ownership, I think it would be fair for the chat loves AJ Brown. Okay. The chat is in on it. And I get it. I totally get it. I just have some concerns about, like I said, the slate may be small, the slate may be gross. The spend ups are not really gross. The opportunity cost of foregoing Justin Jefferson for AJ, you better get that. Mamba's calling 9 for 175 and 2. Well, you better get it because JJ's coming for you, right? The best wide receiver on the planet is coming for you. And Mike Evans is awesome himself. I know that this doesn't really matter, but no Sterling Shepard, no Cade Otton today for the Bucs. So like we are drawing thin on other guys to throw the ball to for the Bucs. Like it's Bucky, maybe Rashad and Mike Evans. And then we're talking about Ryan Miller, Trey Palmer,
Jalen McMillan.
You're right. Jalen. I'm already going down to the 3K guys. After Jalen McMillan, it's like, Castaway. It's a bunch of no-name guys, which is fine. I have some small intrigue in those guys because somebody's got to play. And it's Carolina. But it just feels like, my God, Mike Evans, like 15 targets, right? And if Carolina punches back, it's just a home run spot, I think, for Evans. He's dropped 30, I believe, on these guys last game that they played. N. Masai says the weather is beautiful in Philly right now. It's also 63 degrees. So definitely no cold concerns if the weather holds. That sounds pretty good for all of that game. JC Horn also out. Breezy mentions in the chat the best corner for Carolina. JC Horn didn't matter before, and he's their best. So now who's worse?
Replace your best with a backup.
Yeah, you got an XFL corner for the Panthers out there.
Come on, why would you do that to me? You see my XFL hat, and you're gonna insult the XFL.
Brother, that's the only football team I got in St. Louis now is the XFL. That's true. I'm team
UFL,
XFL.
UFL, St. Louis.
UFL, sorry. Yes. We're not allowed, especially we don't want to be attached to Vince McMahon. So the UFL, we're team Battlehawks around here. Okay. We support the Battlehawks in this house. But nonetheless, speaking of, I feel vindicated about Hakeem Butler. Were you a Hakeem Butler guy back in the day? We all thought he was going to be awesome in the NFL out of Iowa State for the Arizona Cardinals. And we were all very, very wrong. Very wrong. And then he goes to the XFL the UFL for my team and is incredible. We watched him in person. He's a really good football player. I felt vindicated watching him.
He has done nothing but cost me money in the spring football. I had so first of all, he's been very good most games. The one game that I needed him to be good, I had the nuts, and it's chronological for UFL. So you get 2 games Saturday, so you know what you need. And it was like I can block so many teams by pivoting. Oh no, sorry, I did. He hurt me because I pivoted off him because I loved him. Like I talked him up all slate, but he was not the chalk. His teammate Darius Shepard was I think it was Darius Shepard. So I pivoted my lineup to Darius Shepard and onto the chalkiest plays. And it was correct. I totally blocked most of the field. And then just one team had the players that I loved, and then of course passed me with Hakeem Butler and the players I love. So yeah, Hakeem Butler has been just brutal to me in UFL over and over. But yeah, he's been really fun. It's been really good.
That is a great DFS story there. Yeah, thank you, TJ. Heaviest of rain for anybody that's just listening, or maybe making some breakfast or coffee. Heaviest of rain is clearing Buffalo, but they'll still have to contend with a few showers. The winds are 15 miles an hour, sustained gusts around 30 miles an hour. So, not ideal, right? Roth says it. Not ideal, not devastating. I think Roth, what a wordsmith, weatherman, DFS player, gambler, and wordsmith. I think that's how I would put it. If you really, really love, I guess I'll say not Garrett Wilson. If you really, really love Devontae Adams or Alan Lazard or Josh Allen or James Cook or something like that, if you believe in them, or you want to stick to kind of your core play, whatever you want to call it, roll with it. I wouldn't be scared of that weather. But if you're like on the fence, I'm not like pivoting onto them because of that report either.
Yeah. Raheem Blackshear starting. Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah. Let's talk about some more running backs. And because I think this is where it gets interesting, is kind of I'll call it Bucky on down. Because I think we all think, at least you and I, Bucky's kind of a smash. Like, he's really taken over this backfield. He's one of the most efficient running backs in the entire league. He's like baby H-An now, which is hilarious because they're like the same size. But nonetheless, he's a small, really efficient, explosive running back, catches passes, and then the stone cold nut spot against the Carolina Panthers. 6,700 is not prohibitive on DraftKings, but also not like a free square necessarily. He's going to need to score a touchdown, which is his real issue is the multi-touchdown upside, because he is like 185 pounds. He might get a goal line carry. He doesn't convert them very frequently. So that's when you see Rashad, right? Why does Rashad keep scoring double-digit fantasy points every week? It's because he gets the lucky goal line touchdown or what have you. You also have the passing game looks really good. But where does just Bucky rank for you? Because I think he's the next most important back to talk about. And then we'll get into the TJs and the Blackshears and those other guys.
I think Bucky probably ends up as my highest exposed back overall. He's just like projects really well, point per dollar. I see 30, like around the 35-ish% projected ownership on Bucky Irving. I don't think that I come in any higher than that. Like, if anything, I would guess I come in light on Bucky Irving, because I think that we do have enough other strong options. I'm a little bit concerned that they just like the defense just focuses on stopping the running game, because they know, I don't know, because of the weather, like if you can't really throw as well, maybe just focus on stopping the run. Gets a little bit tougher. I guess the weather's not the worst there, so maybe not the biggest factor, but I don't know. Just the price tag is high enough that, like you say, he probably needs to score a touchdown to get there. This could be just a gross game. I think there's a really wide range of outcomes for the game, but I think the whole game could be like really, really slow and low scoring. In which case Bucky puts up 15 and you might not want him at 6,700. So I think, if anything, as much as I like him and as much as I expect him to maybe be my highest exposed running back on the slate, I still think I will be, if the number is 35%, let's call it, I think I'll be slightly underweight to that on Bucky and just put a little bit more of my bets onto the lower owned, like Josh Jacobs and other running backs that are cheaper, I think.
The big thing for me is, again, so Neil is coming from this playing a 150 set.
Yep.
Right. So you're getting kind of both sides of this coin. How I'm thinking about it I'm only playing one team into that, whatever the hell it's called, the
huge one,
the million, there's 2 million up top. And boy, I wasted a lot of money trying to get tickets. Let me tell you that much. There was, I have a ticket to that. It's like, well, how much did you spend to get the ticket? Don't ask that question.
It's a free ticket now.
It's free. I didn't have to deposit today or anything to play. Right. It was worth it. But how I'm thinking about it as like more of that single entry style player is, you definitely can onslaught the Bucks to like when Neil was opening with like thinking about like overstacking. They're like probably my favorite team to do it with. It's like you can include, like, Baker can throw a touchdown to Bucky, no question. But there are a lot of other good running backs, which we'll get to some of these other guys here next, right? We just talked about the superstar spend ups. I mean, I just mentioned James Cook, who we probably won't mention again for the rest of the show. Like, I don't know if James Cook scored 30 something today. Would I be surprised? No. There's a lot of running backs that I do like, and I could kind of overstack the Bucs passing game, leave out Bucky, and be very unique and right. And Bucky just scores 15, and my running backs win. And it's Baker, Evans, McMillan, Payne, Durham catches the touchdown, right? Like it's that kind of a week. I'm looking at those scenarios ultimately. I will say that I'm going to have some form of Bucks in my lineup. I just don't know exactly what it looks like yet. And figuring out what I'm doing with Bucky is a big part of that.
Yep.
TJ loves a Bucks onslaught. Let's go to I can't believe that it's going to take this long to get to Tyjae Spears, but I do want to talk about Raheem Blackshear a little bit just because he's in that same game. Do you want bringbacks, right? If people are like, all right, I'm in on this Bucks thing. I'm in on the Bucks. Do you want bringbacks? Is it Adam Thielen? Is it Raheem Blackshear? Is it Xavier Legette is active today? So that throws a little bit of a wrinkle into the Panthers. Is it back to Jalen Coker? What are we doing with the Carolina Panthers? And I suspect Mike Boone is going to play for the Carolina Panthers in terms of stealing work from Raheem Blackshear, but this is still a pass catching running back at 4K that's going to get most of the work in like a okay enough spot. What are you doing with Blackshear given the amount of running backs on this slate?
I think I'll probably be overweight to, if he does come in sub 5%, like he's been projected for sub 5% ownership all around the industry. You're not buying it. I'm not really buying it now that they name the starter. So like maybe these haven't adjusted for, bring up the projection a bit, bring up.
He's not going to be higher than Tyjae because we have the certainty about Tyjae, but it's higher than 5. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a great spot against the Bucks. Like when they have Vita Vea, they're really strong against the run. So it's like it's a tough spot, but also they really want to run the ball. I mean, they said it like I can't wait to prove to you how much we're gonna try to establish the run. What was one of the something like that was the quote in the offseason, and it's been true. I don't know if it's as true with Blackshear as it was with Chuba, because I don't think he is as good. But at 4,000, like what do you really need? He could put up 12 and be good enough. He could put up, and again, he obviously could put up more than that. So I think, what do you think the number comes in at? 10%?
I was going to say 10.
I don't think I have much of a stand if it does come in at 10%. I think I don't really want that much more than that. My guess is that I'll come in around 10 to 15%, probably that range for Blackshear. But I don't think really want that much more against, again, the Bucs defense has been really tough against the run recently. How about you?
Yeah, you need the pass catching, which I think is the perk of him here. Folks mentioning, so Brad mentions, Mike Boone maybe gets 3 carries for 5 yards and 2 touchdowns. Certainly possible. Man, I remember the days of thinking Mike Boone was good back in the day, and he's been sitting on the Panthers practice squad this year. So, woof. It's like the Khalil Herbert. It's like was he really good? Like I was pretty sure Khalil Herbert was good, but nobody wants to.
None of the coaches think so.
Maybe I'm smarter than these coaches, but that seems pretty unlikely. But Chili says, I like him if he can get the dump off. That's the big thing for me, and also why he fits into certain teams better than he fits into other DFS teams, DFS lineups. If I got like the Baker thing or Bucky, he fits with Bucky too. They both catch passes, and like I kind of want them to fall behind for Raheem Blackshear, which is not normal for I don't really want the Eagles to fall behind for Saquon Barkley. I don't want the Colts to fall behind for Jonathan Taylor. But for Raheem Blackshear, I'm like, you just get some of the carries, right, or get a majority of the carries and go catch 6 balls, brother. At 4K, like I don't really care what else happens, right? I'm going to get my double-digit points and score a touchdown. Awesome. If you don't, it's still useful to me, and the ceiling is really there. So I'm really intrigued with him, as much because he's in this role at 4K, and as much because I really love the Bucs side of things. So he's kind of a downstream. But would you prefer him as a bring back or Adam Thielen as a bring, or one of the other Panthers? Are you playing any of these other guys? How are you prioritizing Panthers?
Yeah, probably Adam Thielen would be my preferred favorite bring back. Just because Like the PPR stuff, I feel like is more guaranteed with Thielen than it is with Blackshear. With Blackshear, we're hoping that he gets a bunch of dump offs, but there's no real guarantee. Whereas Thielen, obviously, any points he gets is going to be on receptions. And we've seen how much they do like Thielen. So I think overall he's probably my number one option for the Panthers. Leggett is active, which kind of puts a wrench into the other options. I still think Jalen Coker is kind of interesting. Leggett himself is kind of interesting, but I think he's kind of hobbled still. So maybe that takes away some interest. It'd be Thielen and Blackshear my top two for the Panthers, and then I'll probably sprinkle in some Jalen Coker. I think Leggett probably takes away any interest in David Moore. But I don't know.
It's over.
Do you think Leggett is Leggett himself playable?
I think so. But it's not. This is not like some conviction. I have stronger conviction about a lot of other guys. And my bar for conviction in shitty players is pretty low. I'm down to show some right. Once upon a time, flag planted De'Ami Brown, and we got the old goose egg out of De'Ami Brown. So I'm open to these kind of players, but I think he's fine. Leggett has to be for me in a specific team that's like, okay, Bryce is throwing 48 passes today or whatever, right? Like this is the game. If Leggett is involved, I'm not playing Xavier Leggett one-offs. is my like? I don't even really want him as like a a little secondary mini stack with like Evans or something. I think I would want him in like a full game explosion type of a situation. But I don't think he's unplayable. The problem for him is just Thielen is much better, in my opinion. Thielen is better. I can't really distinguish between him and Jalen Coker that much. And then I do like Blackshear quite a bit more. A couple good questions on this game. Marie says, are you going to risk one? I like this actually. Are you going to risk one of your running back or flex spots on Blackshear when we have Bucky and Saquon and JT and Tyjae? We'll do Tyjae next, right? There are a lot of good Jacobs, etc. Good running backs. I try not to think about it that way too much because, like I said, he fits a specific purpose, kind of like how this game plays out is like, you wouldn't consider him a $4,000 running back in this scenario. So he's really valuable on those, but do you have concerns about like this kind of low ceiling 4K running back when we have all these good running backs?
So yes and no, which is why I think I'm not going to be over 10 to 15% because I think like he's right. Like there are some strong options. I think you can poke holes though in like all of them to some extent. Bucky, probably the hardest to poke holes in. I guess Tyjae kind of right there as well. Like those two are really strong, but like the rest of the running backs on this slate, I like them. I'm going to play a good amount of several, but like Saquon without Hurts, we don't know that Saquon has the same kind of ceiling without Hurts, or certainly not the same kind of floor. Aaron Jones, tough matchup. Jonathan Taylor, he's 7,900. Like that's nearly double the price of Raheem Blackshear. Right. They have Joe Flacco.
I can have two Raheem Blackshears for one Jonathan Taylor.
Right. Like HN, no Tua, Breece Hall in a bad weather spot where Aaron Rodgers is going to take the goal line stuff. Jerome Ford in sort of a tough matchup. Josh Jacobs is 8,100 against a tough Vikings team. It's like you can poke holes in every running back on the slate, more or less. Tougher for Bucky and Tyjae, like I said, but yeah, you can poke holes in all the running backs. So yes, I will still have some, even with all the other strong running back options on the slate. But it is my interest is limited because even though I'm poking holes in all these other running backs, clearly a lot of them have mega upside too. So there's give and take there.
What I do like about guys like Blackshear is kind of what they allow you to do with your roster construction. That's just a little different than like, clearly there's a story to tell where Raheem Blackshear is really helpful in your, particularly DraftKings. I think, I know we haven't talked a ton of FanDuel, but like you want Evans, right? You want AJ Brown. Like you can get these guys in the same team if you go to Raheem Blackshear. But if you want Saquon, and you want Jonathan Taylor, even Bucky, right? Even Tyjae, like there's a $1,400 price difference between Tyjae Spears and that's the difference between Garrett Wilson and AJ Brown. Like that's a big, it's a huge deal. So That's kind of how I'm thinking about it, is like what he allows me to do. That's going to, I know kind of how my opponents are going to build. So I know, right, I can slot in like, okay, one good wide receiver, one crappy wide receiver, one like mediocre wide receiver, Saquon, or JT, Bucky, Tyjae, right? You just start to build your opponent's optimal lineup, and you can see where, well, once you put Blackshear in there over JT or over Bucky, like watch what changes. You're like, well, now you got Justin Jefferson, and they got whoever, right? Insert five in Josh Downs, which I'm not saying Josh Downs is bad. Josh Downs is good, but there's ways to kind of, manipulate what our opponents are doing. So that's how I think Blackshear fits in. Another good question on this one, and then some questions on the Bills wide receivers. If we don't think that the Panthers are going to be able to run, spoiler, they're not. What about Bryce? Are you going to play any? Is it only the Bucs side, or are you going to play some Bryce?
Probably play a little bit of Bryce. Not somebody that I'm going to be jamming into lineups. He's also, what's he? I guess he's projected for 8% ownership. Could see that coming up because he's a little bit cheaper.
He's not free either.
He's not free. Like, I prefer Joe Burrow. I actually prefer Mason Rudolph, like in that price range.
I prefer Joe Burrow.
Sorry, I prefer Joe Flacco.
Put those 40 points in my lineup today.
Just your average. Yeah. Give me the Joe Burrow if I can get those. No, I prefer Joe Flacco and Mason Rudolph. I think so. Probably not a ton of Bryce Young for me, and I think a lot of people are going to get there. But yeah, 5,600, 8%. I think I'll be underweight to the field there.
I do like the Panthers today, but I would just rather play the Thielens and the Blackshears of the world and get my quarterback points elsewhere. Not saying you can't have a good game, but if Bryce, like, you're still going to need like 30 or whatever from your quarterback, and I would be pretty shocked if Bryce can get, like, he has lost a lot of weapons. Like, I know we're talking up Blackshear, but like Chuba was good, and he's good for Bryce, right? Like, Deontay is a nutcase, and probably not somebody that most teams want to have on their roster, but like, he was helpful. Like, good football players are helpful to the quarterback. We're running thin on good football players on the Carolina Panthers, so that's my concern. Shannon asks, then we'll get to the Bill stuff, but I'm scrolling back. I apologize, guys, for missing some of the question. You guys are on fire today. Which Cowboys pass catcher? I believe I got roasted for this one in the earlier show, because I did tag a Cowboys pass catcher. Yeah. Which Cowboys pass catcher gets the targets with CD being out? I'll go first. This is not the person who's going to get all of the targets, okay? But I think in terms of, similar to the Blackshear thing, if you want to get funky with a 3K wide receiver, the Cowboys have one that I think is playable, and it's right. It's spelled Flournoy, but it's pronounced Flanoy, which is still throws me off every single time.
Yeah. But
Ryan Flanoy is a rookie 6th round pick wide receiver out of SEMO, who was actually really good at SEMO. This is not me flag. This is not my Parker Washington time or whatever. I don't know if Flanoy is any good at all. But I do know that CD got hurt again last week, and Flanoy played a ton in the second half. He ran a bunch of routes. He had 3 targets and caught all of them for 41 yards. They're going to lose today, okay? They're probably going to be down a bunch. They're bad, and they don't have CD Lamb. This is the laziest tout speak of all time, but like, you can do worse. And I do think at 3K, it would be more of a, can he score double digits? Because he gets me Evans, and he gets me Saquon, and he gets, right. It's like, instead of doing the 5K guy, you can save $2,000. How do you get Saquon and JT and Evans and all these guys in one lineup? It's like kind of taking the miracle punt on someone like a Flanoy. So I'm not doing Tolbert. I'm not doing Cooks. I'm not doing the Ferguson thing either. I get it, why people are doing it. But I would rather take the dive on this total unknown rookie. It's clearly over for them. I think that they're going to play him.
Since you're giving me the out, I think I will do the Ferguson thing. He's the one that I have the most interest in. Flanoy, that's funny. There was a friend of mine in my Discord who was really in on him all summer in best ball. He was like a Flanoy, just like kept like sending articles about Flanoy. And I got to some because of the enthusiasm in my Discord. So it would be awesome if he does go off in week 17, just for the, like, you were right about it, even though none of us have him on any teams that are off.
It didn't matter. We didn't make any money, but
but I am going to do the Ferguson thing, just because I think, like, he is probably their like most trusted pass catcher at this point. I guess they still have Brandon Cooks there. Funnily enough, I dropped I had Brandon Cooks on my really weak wide receiver team that's in the championship. I dropped him. I have Brandon Cooks after with CeeDee Lamb. I was like, there's no situation where I'm playing Brandon Cooks. I dropped him for Dontavian Wicks for the championship. I'm not enthusiastic about any of the pass catchers. Flournoy, I like to call out because he's getting such low ownership. I think Flournoy that's a fine GPP play. Ferguson, I think it makes sense just from he should get significant target volume here as the most trusted receiver. He's not that expensive. He's tight end eligible, so I kind of like Ferguson.
Yep, I think it makes sense. I would probably be jamming Ferg if they would stop doing the Schoonmaker and Spanford stuff, and then they're shut right. They shut CD down as Ferg's definitely also part of the future. So I just have some small concerns, right? If the game really goes awry, is he going to be the guy catching the passes on the garbage time? Because that's what I want, right? I want the 4 catches on the final drive to really send him into nuclear category, and I'm just not sold that he is. And so at his ownership, it's kind of my concern. I'm going to rapid fire through some stuff, and then I know we haven't hit Tyjae, which tells you how crazy this slate is. We're going to make sure we hit Tyjae, and I want to hit you guys questions. So Tyjae Spears, Tony Pollard is actually out. Tony Pollard hasn't practiced in months, and this is the first time he's actually not playing in the game, but a pretty good matchup with the Jaguars for Tyjae. He's been popping off with Pollard playing the last 2 weeks. Tyjae is like chalk in best ball finals, doing nothing all season because he just had 2 games at the right time, but still not priced probably where he should be. How are you handling Tyjae on this slate, particularly on DraftKings?
Yeah, I was begging for Tony Pollard to play because Tyjae is going to be chalky, and now he's going to go off with no Pollard. I think it looks great though. It's one of the best matchups you can have against the Jaguars. No Tony Pollard just removes the obstacle to Tyjae getting bell cow workload. So bell cow workload for a pretty good running back with some juice at 5,600 in a great matchup. I think Tyjae is a great play. I think what ownership do we have him at?
He may not get high enough.
36%. Yeah, at 5,400, not even 56. Yeah, it's I think it's a fantastic play. Actually, I said Bucky is probably going to be my highest owned. I probably end up with more Tyjae for the price savings, but those two are pretty close. Great matchups, really good rolls. Everything looks great.
Good players.
Yeah, good players.
I think.
Good point.
Bucky's
that
awesome.
is important. Yeah,
I think this isn't Najee, right? Tyjae can catch passes. Tyjae is pretty explosive. I know it's a less appealing offense. The Titans are, but they scored 30 points last week with Mason Rudolph in there, and Tyjae had 2 touchdowns. I don't know. It just seems like I could sit here and come up with reasons to fade, and let's gal brain game stack, pass game stack this, but he's a pass catcher. He's probably gonna have the second most targets on the team too. So there's just no path to failure, other than injury. Is he gonna nuke? I don't know. Nobody knows. He needs to get in the box, but can he fail? I just don't even it's kind of the Bucky thing too. I'm the worst case scenario is 16 points. Don't I just take that? The upside
5,400. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like him a lot. Bills wide receivers. Several folks asked about the Bills wide receivers. I really hadn't thought, or running backs, excuse me. I really hadn't thought about Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, but given the weird situation that the Bills are in, do you think that they make for probably large field tournaments, but dart throws on those guys, Ray Davis and or Ty Johnson, getting a little extended run here?
Yeah, what are the price? Ray Davis 4,200, Ty Johnson 4,700. I think I would prefer Ray Davis of those two. If you want to play it through neither of them is playing for MVP, so you take away the motivation for Josh Allen. None of the running backs are playing for MVP. So if you want to play it through okay, maybe they do rest James Cook a little bit, start to ease in the other guys, then I think Ray Davis would be the more likely to benefit there from could be just let's just give him a lot of run. Whereas Ty Johnson, the role kind of stays the same regardless. So I think, and Ray Davis cheaper. So I think he would be my preference if you want to go that route. I don't know that I get there with all the other running back options we have on this slate, but I don't hate it either. I think that's a fine way to go. How about you?
Yeah, I think a 1 in 150, 2 in 150 or something, and just saying, the Jets second best receiver doesn't even want to play with his quarterback. They're about as dysfunctional as it gets, and the Bills don't have a ton to play for. And Ty Johnson, Ray Davis are playing in normal game, like when they're in close matchups against the best teams in the NFL, they get to play a little extended run. I don't think it's crazy. All right, just super quickly, because then we got to bring crunch time, and we have to give our flag plants, and then we have to bring crunch time in. Somebody mentioned Tank Bigsby. Are you playing any Tank Bigsby or ETN? The Titans got what the heck happened to the Titans run defense? Jonathan Taylor just ran for like 300 yards. Any Jags running backs?
Yeah, I do think Tank Bigsby, not playing any ETN, but Tank Bigsby, like they've been particularly bad against running backs on the ground as opposed to through the air, and that's kind of Tank Bigsby's jam anyway. The volume's been good, so yeah, I think Tank Bigsby is playable, though I don't think I'm going to get to a ton again, just because we have so many really strong options on the slate. But yeah, I think he's somebody in a 150 set to mix in a little bit. Was there somebody else who asked me about, or was that just it?
I think that was it. I'm trying to scroll back. I may have asked you and then forgot myself within the 30 seconds that I asked you. Some folks are just mentioning some defenses. I'll just toss a couple because we got to bring in crunch time. But Thomas he asks about Miami or Philly defense. Both look awesome to me. I think Philly against Cooper Rush without CeeDee Lamb. Miami against Cleveland with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. No David Njoku too. I know it's like doesn't seem like a big deal, but he's the safety valve. He's right. Don't you either take a sack or check it down to David Njoku for the Browns, and he's not there anymore. I will also say the Browns on the other side with likely Tyler Huntley, no Jalen Waddle. Offensive line is a disaster for Miami. Apparently, you want the real narrative. It's not the Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers narrative. Somebody in chat posted it's Myles Garrett's birthday today for the Cleveland Browns. So I might go bet his sacks. We're going to go wherever I can bet on overs on Myles Garrett sacks. I'll just toss Vegas in there against Spencer Rattler. And I think in actually playing like a Vikings or something in that, right? You ignored that game. Like play the Vikings, right? They strip sack fumble Jordan Love or something that kind of blows up that game, and you get it with the defense. All right, flag plants. Then we got to bring crunch time in. Go ahead and go first, Neil. What's winning me $2 million today? Because it ain't my best ball teams, but hopefully it can be a DFS team.
I think Mike Evans is going to break the slate. I think he's going to be the one, unfortunately, that just he's going to be fed. He's going to have 12 receptions for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns probably. So yeah, Mike Evans breaks the slate with probably a Mason Rudolph stack. And the Mike Evans one-off would be
Mason Rudolph. Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued now. I'm going to go. Because specifically because I'm feeling frisky because the chat didn't love it so much. Mike Evans was going to be my choice, so we're very much on the same page with that. The bring back though to your Bucks, your Mike Evans, your Baker Mayfields, your Bucky Irvings, I think it's Raheem Blackshear. I think it's Raheem Blackshear. I think that he's actually like not a terrible player. He's not awesome, but I don't think he's a terrible football player, and I think he's going to catch a bunch of passes today from Bryce Young. So find your way into the end zone, Raheem Blackshear, after Mike Evans goes for 150. Mike Evans pulls the T. Higgins. You get the Raheem Blackshear on the other side catching a bunch of passes. Let's bring crunch time in. We can round it up and let those guys lead you up to lock. Will, please save us. I just flag planted Raheem Blackshear. So we're back onto the God forbid 2 weeks in a row we chose like sensible, good football players, right? Devontae Adams, Josh Downs, right? We're getting back on track. But Neil stole my Mike Evans. I was praying that Neil wasn't going to say Mike Evans for his flag plant, so I had to go to my natural galaxy brain. Bring the people back to a sane world with a flag plant.
Man, I'm actually going to give you 3, but they all play for the same team, and I feel like it's obvious, but maybe we're just overlooking it because their record sucks and they're not actually a good football team, but neither is the team they're playing. I just don't see how Aiden O'Connell, Jacoby Myers, and Brock Bowers don't all get there today. Like,
love it.
AOC is 5,100, Jacoby 6K, a little bit more expensive than he's been most weeks, and Bowers is 6,700. I'm just going for the volume, the targets, and the most weather controlled game we have against another bad football team. And let's just hope I'm right. Keep Madison and Abdullah out of the end zone, and AOC throws for 3 and 250. And lo and behold, I think Myers and Bowers will come out of this thing okay. They're getting about 10 targets each a game. I feel like it's the most obvious play today. That's my flag play, but I'm just going double stack on that and hope I get everything else right.
Is Bowers your favorite?
By a mile.
He's not he's not that chalky either.
Here's the thing. Tua Tagovailoa isn't going to be throwing footballs to Jonnu Smith today. I don't know what's going to happen to Jonnu. I've seen Jonnu not get any volume in his offense. Tyler Huntley's back. That was Tua's guy. That might not be Huntley's guy. He's the safest tight end on the slate. I don't know why his ownership isn't pushing 30%.
I got no problem with that. Real quick, first Mamba called me out for getting flustered that you took Mike Evans and spiraling down the Black Shear toilet bowl. But
spiraling down the toilet. That's actually incredibly pun-ish, if you will.
Yes,
spiraling down the toilet bowl.
Also, terrible host. When you're the host and you only have one answer, give your answer first and put Neil's feet to the fire. Don't let him go first because you knew he was going to steal it. But your Titan stack, somebody asked, sorry if I missed it. We major. Who are you stacking, Neil? Go ahead.
So Calvin Ridley going to be a big part of any Mason Rudolph stack I do. I think Chig is the other. If you double stack, and I think I will be doing a lot of double stacking. You can actually you can include Tyjae Spears in some of those stacks because he's involved in the passing game some. And then Nick Westbrook-Ikine, he's been scoring the touchdowns. I think he's a fine option for stacks with Mason Rudolph as well. So several stacking options, but it would be Ridley and Chig would probably be if I'm making one lineup hand building with Mason Rudolph, those would be the two.
I like it. I love Dean's burner. That's always in the chat every J3 shouts to J3. Yeah, Dean definitely would not have made that blunder. I totally agree. Dean is the GOAT. But Tim, you got to get us back on track from Mason Rudolph, Nick Westbrook-Ikine. At least Chief brought us back. But what do you got?
Well, I'll tell you what. I was all over Jaden Reed as my flag plant, but then Bobby took it on the very first show of the day, and then I see that you have him tagged in Lineup HQ. So you two are already all over Jaden Reed. He's definitely my guy. I'm still rostering him in single entry. So if he's going to stay under that 10% threshold, which it looks like he may do, because people are going to be going to other parts of that game, I'm going to stick with Jaden Reed as my guy today.
I love it. You guys are so much smarter than Neil and I with Mason Rudolph and Nick Westbrook.
Listen, I went with Mike Evans. Mike Evans is my real stance.
I don't mind either one of those calls.
I'm going to pretend you didn't say Mike Evans, and I'm going to pretend it was Nick Westbrook-Ikine stacks with Mason Rudolph. When we get together next week and Mike Evans smashed, I'm going to give you shit about Nick Westbrook-Ikine. I promise. But we do got to get out of here.
Let me also just say Justin Jefferson finally went off this his past game against Seattle.
Really
unbelievable. Jeez.
Really, really, really fun. Fun fact, I think it might have been in this crossover. So I had to leave before I left early last week. We were talking about last week is such a good indicator of all this. And then I'll jump. Debo felt like the most useless fantasy asset in the history of fantasy football heading into last week. It was so hard to click him. And I built a team that needed 5,200 was the last on DraftKings. And I was like, you know what? We're just doing it. We're dealing with it. And we had a very, very good week. Shout out to Debo Samuel. So that's your lesson for this week. It doesn't have to be comfortable. It doesn't have to be comfortable. We got to do something fun on this. And maybe that's Aiden O'Connell. I'm getting intrigued, or Mason Rudolph. But I just wanted to say thanks to everybody for hanging with us all season. If you're in your fantasy championships, you're in the best ball championships, you're in these big DFS tournaments today. What a fun Sunday. Enjoy. Thanks you guys for hanging out with us. And we will see you next week for buddy. I hope you're ready. For week 18. Bring your questions to these two fine gentlemen, and we will see you guys next week.
All right, later, guys. Thanks.
All right, it's Chief. It's Tim. We don't have a TWT actual weekend show, but TJ is working hard behind the scenes. Our producer TJ, and we're gonna hop right in this thing. Boy, is he having a time with all of the spam today. NFLCBS.com is on one. He just keeps posting. TJ, thank you for all you do. Tim, let's talk about this slate. Let's go overview. Let's go top down. Like, how are you feeling? I know you like Jaden Reed, but just the slate in general, not as big of a slate as we usually have on a Sunday. So what are your thoughts just, in general as we kick this thing off?
Yeah, 8 games on DK, 9 on FanDuel. We're going to see a lot of condensed ownership, a lot more than we normally would see on a normal Sunday slate. Definitely going to be a lot of condensed ownership at running back. I think that's going to be an important thing to think about when you're making a portfolio of teams. So, I mean, we're going to see like really, really high ownership on some of these running backs. So I think that's kind of a bigger deal. Quarterback, I think is going to be a little bit spread out. Like, yeah, we're going to have some chalk, but I think we're going to see a decent spread in QB and wide receiver. So it's really going to be running back, where if you're going to be playing those super, super chalky ones, you really have to kind of, get different somewhere else in your lineup, because then you'll just be playing a cash game team. So if you're going to be playing the super chalk running backs, but even if you just get different with just one of your RB spots, you're going to be getting off of a really, really popular build. So you don't have to get too far off, but there's 3 or 4 super chalk running backs that are going to be like the cash game plays. So if you get off one of them, I think that's an interesting way of getting different on a team.
For sure. I usually don't do this, or we usually don't do this on crunch time, but I do think just to kind of keep everybody updated, fair amount of weather today. Like in most games, to say we've got 8 to 9 games that you're playing, depending on what site you're on. I mean, we've got orange to yellow orange in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the 8 to 9 games, Tim. Not that it's going to deter you from playing certain players, but Tennessee, Jacksonville, looks like there will be some heavy rain, but and Ross was even saying he thinks there could be a delay in that game. Yellow,
which would be a good thing. Sorry to interrupt you, Chief, but that would actually be a good thing if there is a delay in these games. So and we know this isn't like MLB, like they're gonna play the game, right? So they're gonna wait it out and they're gonna play the game. So that if you do feel like there's gonna be a delay, that's really good for your fantasy players in that game. So I think that's just one thing to note.
Yeah, for sure. Buffalo, less wet, I think, during the game, more so wind in that game as we get later into the game, according to Rob. Gusts, somewhere around 30 miles per hour. Buffalo weather games, man, they typically don't work out in our favor, especially in the prop game. Usually they come out just fine in the end. But if the wind's going to be swirling, then, obviously could be a downtick to the passing game. They could look to get the running game going. Carolina, Tampa Bay got some scattered showers. Isolated storms are possible. Winds 10 miles per hour, sustained with occasional gusts over 20 miles per hour. Hopefully that game will be fine. I think we like a few pieces from that game. Nothing too bad in Dallas, Philly, mostly dry, just some winds, and could occasionally get up to 30. Miami at Cleveland, all the way orange. Big wins in that game. Sustained winds will increase through the game from 15 to 20 miles per hour at kickoff to 20 to 25 by the second half. Gusts reaching 35 plus. Ross doesn't expect more than rain showers, but definitely a lot of wind. And then for the night game, me and TJ will cover that one. All right, Tim, you were talking about quarterback and kind of some spread out ownership. Who's your favorite quarterback? And then maybe let's talk about some guys that you're interested in.
Yeah, one more quick thing about the weather. That Cleveland game to me is the most worrisome about weather. So I agree with Roth. Like, it's winds that we're really concerned about. So, and then the other thing is, don't double count the projections. Projections are already getting docked because they're attached to totals and player props. So, don't double count the projections. The projections have already taken into account these weather situations. So just keep that in mind. the projection that you see is already taking into account these weather concerns. So I just wanted to like bring that up to everybody. Quarterback on DK, I think that there are a few different options that you can go with. I think Sam Darnold is probably the safest choice. He's projecting really, really well. He's also going to be the highest owned. He's in a dome, right? Like we get to stay away from all this weather by going Sam Darnold. So he's probably your cash game quarterback. But in this last update, we're starting to get a lot of Joe Flacco also in optimals. He's 4,900, and his receiving partners are extremely cheap as well. So I think Flacco is a really nice choice at 4,900 if you don't want to pay up for Sam Darnold. I think Baker Mayfield at 6,900. I think he's going to be a really, really strong play today. I think his ownership might stay kind of low, like right around 10, if not lower. So I don't mind Baker Mayfield and GPPs. I think Jordan Love on the other side of that Darnold game, he's going to be much lower owned than Darnold. I think he's a good leverage point on that pretty popular game. So I really like Jordan Love for GPPs as well. And then I did like Neil's call on Mason Rudolph. I think that's a really sharp call. He's only 5K, but I do like Flacco more in that 5K range. And then one more, I guess, would be Bryce Young at 5,600. I'm just not exactly sure who I want to pair him with. Probably Thielen, but I do have some interest in Bryce Young.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. I originally had Thielen in my build. I know we're talking about quarterback. I did originally have him. I'll see if I end up there. I've reworked my build just a touch. So we'll see. I do like the Darnold call. As everybody knows, I'm really high on the Raiders today, so I like AOC. Love the Jordan Love call on the other side of the Vikings game, because I feel like Jordan Love just kind of hasn't had, let's call it the big games, Tim, where, we kind of want 20 plus fantasy points. We haven't really got that. Last time he played Minnesota, though, a lot earlier in the season, Tim, 34 fantasy points. Obviously, Minnesota is a team we expect to kind of push Green Bay to have to score a little bit. So I love the call on Jordan Love. As you said, not getting as much ownership, and the ownership is kind of spread out today. So love that call. Let's go over to running back, Tim, and
let me just, if you don't mind, real quick.
Sure.
I'm just gonna touch on FanDuel QB really quick.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels, I straight up prefer over Sam Darnold. Optimal lineups are giving out Sam Darnold. I'm playing Jaden Daniels in cash and in my single entry GPP team. So I'm just going to pay the 8,500 for Daniels. I'm not going to go all the way up to Allen. I'm not going to go down to Darnold. I think Daniels in that Atlanta game is in an amazing spot. So I think if you're looking for what I think is the best quarterback play on the slate, I'm personally going Jaden Daniels.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And Tim, if you want to throw in anything for FanDuel, you can just throw it in at every position. We can just talk about it all at once.
Sure.
And that way we don't have to bounce back.
Yeah.
And forth.
Sorry to keep interrupting you. I don't mean to do that.
No, Tim.
Yeah.
We're good. Hey, listen, this is a friend show. We're good, man.
No, I know.
Yeah. So running back, let's start here, Tim. What are we doing with Saquon Barkley? Because obviously he's the most expensive running back on DraftKings. I think he's the most expensive running back on FanDuel. Also, let me make sure. Yeah, most expensive running back on both sites, including Bijan up there on FanDuel. And then let's kind of break out. Because I think whether or not you're going to play Saquon is really going to determine how you build the rest of your lineup, because he is pretty expensive on both sides. What are you doing with Saquon? And then we'll go from there.
I personally think you should be playing both of them in cash games, like 100%. We should be going Barkley. Standout play, really. They should really be feeding him the ball, I would assume. So I have no issue. I mean, he gets an increase in touchdown equity with no tush push likely happening today.
Yeah.
So, I mean, And on FanDuel, touchdowns are such a premium on FanDuel, so I think he's an even better play on FanDuel. But I mean, he's a smash play on both sites. We'll talk about wide receiver. I think it's so easy to play Barkley and Jefferson. So I mean, it's just I'm going to be playing both of them in cash games on FanDuel. I'm not playing Jefferson. But on DK, I think it's just so easy to do that. So I'm not going to fool around. I'm going to be playing Barkley everywhere.
Okay, all right. So Tim is playing Barkley. As of right now, I think I'm going to have Barkley. Tim, I know that sounds crazy. I think it's just how my lineup is shaking out a little bit. I get a little bit more wiggle room by going down to a guy like JT on DraftKings for me. But I'm trying to fit Barkley in there just because I think this is the Barkley spot of all spots. Like if he doesn't get there today, even though they're going to be keying in on him, I do think because the other skill position players are still playing, like Smith and AJ Brown, they still won't be able to just load up on Barkley, which should help him even more. And I think the tush push situation, Tim, even though I know like that's kind of the real life part of the game, I think that's a huge deal. Like anywhere inside the 5, I think Saquon's getting the ball. Like I don't think there's any reason they don't try to hand it over to him. So I love that call. All right, Tim, I'm going to address the other big thing at running back, and then I think we'll just start getting to everybody else. I know we're kind of going two extremes here. On the high end, I think you want Barkley. On the low end, Tim, Tyjae Spears. I think we're all considering playing Tyjae Spears. I think it's the right call. I think it's great chalk. I don't think there's any reason for us to think he should just fail abysmally. Like, I feel like a failure for him would be like 8 fantasy points. I think he gets at least 15, Tim. So what are your thoughts on Tyjae? I think he's a really good play today, really strong option. Tyjae Spears, other end of the spectrum. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm definitely playing Tyjae Spears all across the board today, both sites, all types of contests. I think TJ was earlier made a good point that he seems to be really like game script. Like there's going to be no great game script that takes him out of this game. So I'm really not concerned about him like getting scripted out of this game. So he's going to be out there regardless of the outcome. I know that he's showing a little bit of like negative leverage in Sims right now, but I don't really care. Usually I would say to like stay away from somebody like that, but I think he's so cheap that he's a pretty tough fade. So I think we should load up on Spears today.
Okay, love that call. All right, Tim, we've got what I feel like are the linchpins at running back. Like you've got Saquon up top. You've got Tyjae down at the bottom. I know we have Blackshear. Don't get me, but come on. I think Tyjae is a much better play than Blackshear. Now, Tim, everybody else. Saquon, Spears, then everybody else. Who is your everybody else that you want to get to today?
I mean, it's Bucky in cash, and it's definitely Bucky, in GPPs as well. I honestly think that those 3 are going to be pretty easily the most owned. But I think if you get off like one of those guys and maybe play like a JT or an Aaron Jones, or even a Devon A-Chain as like a pivot, possibly off of Saquon, something like that. Like if you get off of one of those 3 guys, as I was talking about at the beginning of the show, I really like that. I also have some interest. I know this might sound kind of crazy, but like you were talking about Las Vegas and getting to AOC and some of his stacking partners. But I mean, running it back with Keandre Miller. What do you think about that? Like in a large field tournament, you could play Keandre Miller perhaps over Tyjae Spears. I
don't know if I can play him over Tyjae, but I get it. Like.
Or you could play him with Spears, but as part of a Las Vegas New Orleans stack, you load up with the AOC, it's pass catchers and Miller, and you could throw in Spears in there too.
Yeah, I don't hate that call. I mean, look, Miller is cheap, just as cheap as everybody else, and essentially, if the game stays relatively close or within striking distance, you think he stays in the game and continues to get touches. So. I definitely don't mind that call.
It would give you leverage because I think the Raiders D is going to be pretty popular, so it would give you leverage off of the Raiders D is projected for the highest owned. Yeah, so to give you leverage off of the Las Vegas defense. And because like I don't really think the Las Vegas, we'll talk about it, but I don't really think the Las Vegas defense is really good shot today. Like they're really banged up. I know
I'd much rather play the Eagles. I'd much rather play the Eagles.
I'd much rather play the Eagles or the Browns.
Yeah, I have the Browns currently because I needed the relief.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, I mean, I know the Saints are absolutely atrocious, but I mean, this Vegas defense is missing a lot of key pieces. So, I think that Keandre Miller would give you some leverage off of that Vegas defense chalk.
Yeah, for sure. Last for me, I was hoping JT wasn't going to get out of control in terms of his ownership. It's not out of control, but relatively to an 8-game slate, I actually think it's pretty low at around 19%, considering, he's coming off of a big game. The Giants aren't great either. Like, he should continue to get his touches. I like JT. And then, another guy that I think has been sneaky, if you will, Tim, like Rico Dowdle's got all the work for the past few weeks, and he's continuing to produce. And I know it's the Eagles. I know, like, there's no CeeDee Lamb. I know this is a not so great spot for the Cowboys, but he's been very productive with his role. And I don't think, I'm looking at his ownership, Tim. He's practically unowned today. I actually think Rico is a solid play today, like on the back end of tournament lineups. What are your thoughts on Rico? And then we'll go to wide receiver.
I'm just worried about Dallas like possessing the ball enough. I just think that they get kind of smoked in this game, and they probably run a lot of clock using Saquon. That's just my opinion. I think your theory could be correct. But yeah, so I don't hate it, but I'm just worried about Philly like really just milking the clock and feeding Saquon a ton in this game.
Yeah, and then I'll just say Blackshear at 4K, like get him in some lineups. He doesn't have a lot of ownership today, so it's really not a lot of opportunity cost him. If you got him in 10% of your lineups, if you're MMEing, I mean, we've only got him projected, at least according to the Blitz projection, it's around 3-4%. Like 10%, right. And he does well, you're sitting pretty, I think, in your MME build. So I want to throw him in also. All right, Tim, let's go to wide receiver. I actually think we've got a fair amount of wide receiver options for such a small slate. Let's start up top. I think the two big guns that everybody's interested in terms of most expensive, Jefferson and Evans. I think we're going to see ownership on both of those guys, and you should see ownership on both of those guys because, I mean, they're two of the best receiver plays on the slate. How are you feeling about Jefferson? How are you feeling about Evans? And then we'll hop to some other guys.
So I strongly prefer Jefferson for cash games. I'm not getting to Evans in cash. He's fine for GPPs, like absolutely, really, really great play for GPPs. Don't have an issue with it at all. But I strongly prefer Jefferson, just like that, game environment better. And I think Jefferson's a better receiver. So I'm sticking with Jefferson. I think the tricky play or like the interesting conversation is what to do with Brian Thomas. Like, until I saw this rain issue, right? I was all over him at 6,800 on DK. Now I'm getting scared off, but then it's like, well, don't double count, right? Like, don't double count the projection. But like that game kind of scares me a little bit for cash. So I'm off of him in cash, but I absolutely love him for GPPs. I'm going down to Josh Downs, who's going to be super, super chalky. I'm fine if you fade him in tournaments, but I think he's a borderline must play in cash games. I think Michael Pittman at 4,700, I think is a really, really strong play for any format. I mean, Flacco's not going to do anything. So if it's, he's not going to run the ball at all. So it's just going to go all to Downs and Pittman, assuming JT doesn't just do everything for this Colts team. And then we have to talk about this Green Bay situation. We've got Dontavian Wicks at 3,900. He is a really, really amazing standout value play. He's good in any format. If you need salary relief in cash, that's fine. If you just need a punt in GPPs, he's a really, really strong play. So I absolutely love him. Wide receiver, though, like you said, is really, really strong today. Like there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. I mean, obviously you just want to correlate in GPPs, right? So like play the guys that are in your stacks or your run backs. But yeah, I mean, it's like who are your favorite wide receivers for GPPs?
So even though this guy's a cash game play, I think you need to have one of Evans or Jefferson in all lineups. That's just how I view this slate, because I just think those guys are going to get so much volume. Now, as an aside to that, Tim, when you look at Josh Downs and you look at the projection on him, I mean, he's the best point per dollar play according to the Blitz, and it's not even close. Like, so at 4,800, Downs is getting just as much ownership as the big guns. So, and once again, Tim, I'm trying to measure this ownership relative to the slate, right? So we got 8 to 9 games, and Downs is around 25%. I think that's okay compared to how many games we have and how much actual value we have. Now, I do think Jalen McMillan is a good pivot away from Downs in tournaments, if you will, because he's been very productive with his role also. But I just think straight up he's a really good play. Additionally, in tournaments, Tim, I think – so hear me out here. I know it's Kenny Pickett, but nobody's playing A.J. Brown today. Nobody wants to play the actual Eagles passing game. And I get that it's going to be probably some type of ball control. But, man, A.J. Brown could still have 5 for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like that's within the realm of possibility. Devontae Smith could still have, 5 for 80 and a touch. Like, I just think we feel like Saquon's going to be the guy. But I also feel like the Eagles can still push this thing a little bit through the air. I'm not saying Pickett has throws for 300, but I mean, Tim, if he throws for around 230, hear me out now. If he throws for around 230, you got to think A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith has soaked up, about 150 yards of that at least? So I just, once again, Eagles passing game, I think, is really interesting for tournaments. Because I just think nobody's going to get there. And then, of course, you go to the Packers passing game. Outside of Dontavian, which we're really not seeing a lot of ownership on the Packers passing game, and they're going to have to throw the ball today. I think Love throws for at least 250 in this one. And between Reed, Dobbs, Wicks, and Kraft, you got to think they pretty much take it all up. I know Josh Jacobs will catch a couple passes as well. But one of these receivers, Tim, should have a reasonable day, somewhere between 15, 20 points, and they're all under 6K. So I think the Green Bay passing attack is really good for tournaments also as a whole. Just really good as a whole.
Yeah, I really like Love doubles today. I really like that. Yep.
So that's right. And I mean, I didn't mention the Raiders passing game, but so I'll reiterate just so people don't think I'm overlooking it. I do like Jacoby Myers. Also, like I'm a huge fan of the Raiders passing game today. Anybody additional you want to throw in there, Tim?
No, I think we covered it pretty well. Like, there's going to be a lot of chatter about Devontae Adams getting his 500th TD from Aaron Rodgers. 7,100 though, like he's going to need to do a little bit more than that, I think, for GPPs. I did like Calvin Ridley, just like with Brian Thomas. That weather's kind of scaring me a little bit, but I still think Calvin Ridley is a really standout tournament play. I think we got to talk about Malik Neighbors. I know that he's banged up and kind of over it this season, but I mean it's a really good matchup against the Colts. So I do like Malik Neighbors, and I don't think he's going to get much ownership.
Yeah, and his targets have not fallen off of a cliff, Tim.
Right.
I mean, he's had 14, 14, 10, 13, 9. Those are the last 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the last 5 games. Any other receiver in the country on the slate is getting that kind of target volume, Tim, and production. They're probably over 7K. He's 6,600. Love that call.
Ian, I don't know if you mentioned him, but I do like Jalen McMillan quite a bit for
I mentioned him as a pivot off of Downs in tournaments.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good call. I really like McMillan as a pivot off Downs.
Yep. Love that. All right, Tim, going to tight end. So Scott Davis is asking about wide receiver. Scott, I'm pretty much on the same guys on FanDuel in terms of wide receiver. I know they've got an extra game. You could absolutely play Drake London, or you could play Terry McLaurin, but like generally speaking, I'm pretty much on the same wide receivers on FanDuel because even though they might be slightly more expensive, the salary distribution is about the same because of how it's broken down. So I'm on the same guys. Same guys.
Yeah, not a huge difference for me either, Scott. I would just make Jefferson less of a priority on FanDuel.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Going to tight end. Who do you like on FanDuel? Who do you like at tight end, Tim?
Yeah, Jake Ferguson is obviously like the cash game guy at 3,700. I think he's going to get a ton of the target share with Lamb out. So I love his price. Payne Durham is like the way pay down option. He's a really good way to play Jefferson and Barkley's just to play Payne Durham. I love your Brock Bowers call. He's the spend off option. And then I think Tucker Kraft ends up getting squeezed a lot. So I do have Kraft in my single entry team on DK right now. So Kraft is my favorite of the like tournament tight ends.
Yeah. Love that call. Love that for sure. And then Scott, Downs is more expensive on FanDuel and Wicks is too, but Wicks is 5,200 and Downs is I think 61. Like that's not really that expensive on FanDuel when the top tier guys are 9K, 8K. So I'm not really changing my stance on that. I'm pretty much the same on both sides. I'm pretty much all in on Brock Bowers today. I just think he's the guy. I don't mind sprinkles of TJ Hawkinson. I don't mind sprinkles of Jake Ferguson. I do love Tucker Kraft, Tim. And then if you're feeling really froggy here, like going back to a guy like Strange from Jacksonville, I think is okay as well. But I'm pretty much all in on Brock Bowers. I'm just going to plant my flag there. And if he fails me today, I live with it. So there we go.
And Chig. Neil was talking about Chig. I think that's a really good call for tournaments.
Yep. Chig Okonkwo from Tennessee. And then that's all the skill position players. Tim, I'm going to start taking some questions because we're about 9 minutes out. And typically we see a lot more questions for football than we do anything else seemingly. So I'm going down. I'm in the live stream chat. And I'm trying to go backwards here. Here we go. Hold on a second. All right, this is from Carolina Guy. He's saying, "What up, fellas? Fantasy Lawn Championship QQ. Kincaid or Jonnu Smith? No Tua. Man, that's a tough one for me, Tim.
That's a really tough one because there's gonna be weather in both those games. I would go Kincaid.
Yeah. I dislike them both because I dislike them both for different reasons. Kincaid for sure has the better quarterback today. I think I like that. This is coming from Carolina Guy for you, Tim. FanDuel GPP one lineup in the big FanDuel Millie. Favorite quarterback, wide receiver stack. Oh, you've already answered that. Never mind. Daniels, I'm going down the line. Okay,
so I'd go.
GPP.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yep. No. I was just gonna say if you don't want to go McLaurin with Daniels, I think you could go Ertz also at 5K. So
okay,
I don't mind that either.
Yep. Don't hate that. FanDuel GPP Bijan or Bucky Irving. Bijan or Bucky Irving.
I know it's chalky, but I'm gonna stick with Bucky.
Okay. All right. I have that's all the questions in the live stream chat for now. Well, never mind. Somebody just put one in and I'll catch that one. Favorite FanDuel tight end cash gameplay. Tim, I know you like Kraft. Is it Kraft for you or are you spending up for someone else?
I wouldn't go Kraft in cash. I would go Hawkinson in cash games.
Okay.
Or Ferguson.
Okay. All right. I don't hate that at all. I am going back up, trying to catch some questions here. And just hang in there with me, Tim, because here we go. For the chip, flex play, Yahoo season long, Tyreek, Jerome Ford, Tajay Spears, or Debo. Out of those four. Guess that's their last That's their flex play. Tyreek, Jerome Ford, Tajay Spears, or Debo.
Spears and Ford.
Okay. Brandon Cooks or Coker from
I guess I'd go Coker.
Okay. All right. JT or Bucky for FanDuel GPP.
That's a tougher one.
Yeah.
Because they're closer in price on FanDuel.
Yeah, I think Bucky's 8K on FanDuel and JT's like 84-ish. I think he's 84.
Yeah, he's 80. Yeah. I guess if you have the 400, I'd go JT, but it's super close. They're both fantastic.
Okay, this is coming from Richie. Spears and Cowboys defense or Tracy and Giants defense on DK single entry?
I don't really like either, but I guess I'd go the Cowboys defense side.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really like either also. PPR cash, pick one. Myers, Thielen, Ridley, or McMillan. That's PPR cash. Myers, Thielen, Ridley, or McMillan?
Myers.
Okay. Defense, Titans, Packers, Raiders for DraftKings. Raiders are the chalk.
I'd go Titans.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, it's me. Breezy says McMillan. Yes, we like McMillan. FanDuel cash games. Flacco at QB, JT, Downs, or Spears, Jefferson. So Flacco's at quarterback at QB. JT and Josh Downs or Spears and Jefferson?
Spears, Jefferson.
Okay. Let's see. Brees Hall, Jerome Ford, Garrett Wilson, Jaden Reed, 53 receiving and rush yards. I'll pass on that. Okay, I've already answered that for Scott. I'm just kind of going down here. Need two. Rashad White, Tyrone Tracy, Madison, or Mooney. Need two. Didn't really specify site or cash or GPP. Rashad White, Tyrone Tracy, Madison, or Mooney. I think I'd go Madison and Mooney.
I would also.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. All right, this is coming from Matt Smith. He's saying Ridley Ferguson or Downs Hawkinson. Darnold at QB for DK Cash. So Ridley Ferguson or Downs Hawkinson.
Downs Hawkinson. But they're both good.
Okay. FanDuel single entry, Taylor and Evans or Barkley and Jones.
I would go Barkley Jones.
Okay. And guess what, Tim? Last question. Baker Evans or Daniels McLaurin FanDuel GPP? I think you've already specified.
Yeah.
Daniels McLaurin.
Yeah, I say go the Washington route.
Okay. All right. Tim, it's 3 minutes to lock. We've got all the questions, but people are still putting some in. All right. BTJ or Evans PPR? BTJ.
Brian
Thomas Jr. Yeah. Brian Thomas Jr. or Evans for PPR.
Man. I think I'll stick with Brian Thomas.
Okay. All right. Don't hate that. And there we go. We've got all the questions, Tim. I'm just going to make sure we hang out here. I'm actually trying to finalize my single entry lineup.
Actually, I'm going to take something back. I'd prefer Evans over Brian Thomas in that PPR question. I'm going to go Evans instead.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Turpin for value.
Yeah. So I heard Erik talking about Flournoy, and I thought Turpin was going to be my guy out of this Cowboys situation. They've got, I think, 6 active wide receivers. So it's really a situation that I would stay out of completely. But if you were going to take one of the values, Turpin would be my choice out of those Dallas guys.
Okay. All right. That sounds good.
For the record, though, Erik does know a lot more about fringe players than I do, like a lot more. So take that for what it's worth. But Turpin would be my choice over Flournoy.
Got it. Let's see here. What's doubt on ownership going to be? Very low. FanDuel cash. Yeah. Daniels, Bucky, Chig, or Darnold, JT Hawkinson.
Yeah,
FanDuel
so those
cash.
are both really good. I'm making my stand and going with Daniels and cash over Darnold. So I'm gonna go the Daniels side.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Man, I'm struggling between JT and Barkley, and I gotta pull the trigger here shortly. Let me go Barkley and Browns. Oh man, this is a tough one. I think I'm playing.
If it's Barkley and Browns or JT and Eagles, do Barkley Browns. I've had the same thought.
Yeah, that's mostly where I am. I'm gonna go. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. But I think I'm gonna do it. I think I'm probably tricking myself out of $1 million, and that's that. Oh, I couldn't save it. Great. So whatever my original lineup stays, Tim. My original lineup stays. That's freaking amazing. I probably was going to trick myself and lose it anyway, or mess up anyway. So I'm glad, because I originally had Barkley, for what it's worth. All right, here we go. That is locked, folks. It's been Tim. It's been Chief. Don't worry. TJ and I will be back for the Sunday Lock Show. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Thank you all for hanging out with us all season. And we will see you back next week for more NFL Crunch Time. See you then.